Call our meeting of the Falls Township Board of Supervisors to order. It's about 7:34. We'll begin with the salute to the flag, please.
This is the Falls Township Governmental Access Channel 22 on Comcast, 40 on Verizon Fios, and you're about to view the Falls Township Board of Supervisor meeting for August 17th, 2010. This program was pre-recorded earlier for playback at this time.
Hey, thank you. Mrs. Pullen?
Here.
Present.
Here.
Here. Here.
Okay, before we begin with our agenda, I wanted to ask board members and those here in the audience for a moment of silence. Recently, the township lost one of its hardest working out of a group of very hard-working people, and certainly one of the most well-liked and one of the longest-serving. Trish Reynolds came to work here at this township in 1986. She served in a number of capacities, from manager secretary to working for code enforcement, as well as with the fire marshal's office, and was at these meetings for quite a long time, taking minutes for this board as well as a lot of our other boards. She was a wonderful one, always greeted everybody with a smile, always had something funny to say, and always seemed to know the answer to questions that nobody else in the building knew the answer to. If there was something difficult you couldn't remember, couldn't figure out, just, well, let's ask Trish, and Trish would know. She has been sick for a few years, came to work when she could, loved working here, and the people of this building are certainly going to miss her. And so we'll send our thoughts and prayers out to her family and friends and ask for a moment of silence, please. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Harvey,
Yes.
would you tell us where the viewing will be tomorrow night?
Yeah, the obituary, there's a viewing tomorrow evening at Doherty Funeral Home from 6 to 9. Okay. All right. Mrs. Fisher, you would have asked just for a few minutes, so we'll give you a little bit of time if you want to come up and just say if you got something about the dog law, I believe. Yeah.
Good evening. Thank you for this. My name is Liz Fisher. I live in Bristol Borough, but the dog law that have been working on impacts everybody in Pennsylvania, and I wanted to give you an update because the newspaper's first story was not correct, and
Could you put the microphone closer? We can't hear you as well.
can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
That's better.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so I thought I owed it to you, especially in view of the item that you have on your agenda tonight. And our dog law, I appeared before this board about last year to talk to you about our campaign, which was we were asking for a change in state dog laws that would allow each municipality to create and enforce its own dog laws. And this is what happened after we met in Harrisburg, and then 2 weeks later we had a teleconference with someone from the State Department of Agriculture because they oversee all dog laws in the state. And this is what they told us, that we could go ahead and strengthen our own dog laws, which goes for every municipality, really. And of particular concern was the leash law. We always had a leash ordinance in Bristol, but this is how people would get out of it. They receive a citation, they would go to a district court, and they would say, if I call my dog, it comes to me. Now that the district judge, some of them would interpret that based on state dog law, which is very vague. It just says you must have your dog under control. And so citations would be tossed out. So where it stands now, we can strengthen our own dog laws, not just leashes, but confinement, responsible supervision when the dogs are off the property, and we are going to go ahead and do that, and any municipality can. If there continues to be a problem that we have seen in some district courts that the loose interpretation stands, then we will go ahead and reintroduce a state law. We're hoping that an amendment to the dog law. We're hoping that that this will work. We have been strengthening. There's been a committee working on dog law, and it is a public safety issue, so we're hoping that it stands and that it stands in the district courts. We believe that it will, based on what the state told us. So that's that. I am encouraged tonight by the fact that you have a leash law code amendment on your, it's not, I don't live in Falls Township, it's not for me to ask you to do that, but it is a matter of public safety. And I do have, I'll finish with a few of statistics that I gathered in my research. And these are from the Center for Disease Control in Atlanta. In this country, every year, about 4.5 million people are bitten by dogs. 800,000 of those need emergency treatment. And nearly half of all visits to every hospital in the country have to do with dog injuries. And one really disturbing statistic is that 44,000 people annually require extensive face and neck reconstruction. Half of those are children, and those are from dog attacks. And that's why it's important to have a dog on a leash. 67% of all dog attacks are pit bulls and Rottweilers, and I know people have tame pit bulls and tame Rottweilers. I'm not picking on them. Those are the figures. They are what they are. And most of the attacks are domestic. That means they happen within the house where the dog lives. And so it's something to be cautious about, and certainly when people walk their dogs, they really need to be on a leash for their own protection and for the protection of other people. We started this because of what happened to our Beagle Luna, but there are no reliable dog-on-dog attack statistics, and these human statistics are more important. And so I thank you for listening to me, and thank you for your time, and thank you for supporting us when I appeared for you before.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mr. Harvey, may I make a suggestion to Mrs. Fisher before she leaves? It occurs to me that if you have pictures of your dog and how badly it was mauled, and you went to call on each of the district justices and explain to them how they are interpreting the law loosely, and if nothing will be done until there is the stronger penalties, because I have seen a child that was mauled by a pit bull once, and that is a horrible sight. And I commend you for all of your effort in this matter. Thank you.
We hope we're finished, but not yet. We're keeping an eye on things, and we may come back with a bill at some other time. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, item number 1 on our agenda is the learning experience. This is a preliminary land development plan. Mr. Gray.
Yes, thank you. This, as mentioned, is a preliminary land development for the learning experience located at 8829 New Falls Road, tax map parcel 13-19-218 and 219. The applicant is proposing an 11,000 square foot child care center. Representing the applicant tonight is Mr. Kurt Schaefer.
Good evening.
Mr. Schaefer.
And with me is Michael Dipple, our engineer. As stated, yes, this is I represent 8829 New Falls Road LP. They're the equitable owner of this property. Basically, everything on the site is to be demolished. We've received all our necessary zoning approvals. Last month, we received preliminary approval from the Planning Commission. Yeah. Thank you. And I'm not, never having appeared before this board before, I'm a little unsure how you want me to proceed right now. Basically, we're looking for a number of waivers, and everything else is a will comply. There are probably certain changes that will be made to the plan as a result of comments from the Planning Commission that I should point out. Maybe I'll just start with that real quick. Notably, the feature of the plan is that there's two curb cuts on the site. The main curb cut in the center of the site would be in and out traffic. The second curb cut, which is on the western end of the site, was originally proposed to be exit only, right turn only. That's going to be changed. There's not going to be any entrance there, but it will be a left and right turn exit. Furthermore, the main drive aisle in front of the building will then be a one-way drive aisle going east to west from the main intersection to the restricted curb cut. That will allow for better internal traffic flow. In conjunction with that, adjacent to the building on the eastern side are 3 parking stalls. They're going to be removed. Backing out of them just put whoever was driving the car right in the middle of the entrance intersection. It just didn't make any sense. So those stalls are going to be removed. We still have enough to function in terms of what the learning experience considers their needs. We still meet the zoning ordinance with respect to parking, so we can afford to lose those 3 stalls. The parking stalls directly in front of the building, they will be designated as pickup and drop-off stalls only. Beyond that, I guess I'll point out that there is a play area off to the west of the property that's segregated by age because the learning experience takes children from the age of 6 months to 5 years. And that roughly means that 2/3 of the occupants of the building really don't go outside to play because they can't walk yet. But when that happens, the toddlers are segregated from the 5-year-olds for obvious reasons. The trash dumpster is located at the far eastern side of the site at the end of the parking lot there. That parking lot will be employees only. We had talked about different ways to facilitate the pickup of trash. And at the Planning Commission, where we sort of left things, what we agreed to do was keep that trash dumpster where it was. That would necessitate a trash pickup truck coming in and backing up somewhere in the site. So we have agreed to put a note on the plan that the pickup will not take place during hours where there are people locating at the building. So that would have to be sometime then before 6:30 in the morning or after 6 p.m. in the evening. And those are really the changes that are going to be made to the plan when we submit it for final. We've requested a number of waivers, some of which we eventually wound up withdrawing, and one more I think we're going to be able to withdraw tonight. And in no particular order, I'd like to go through them so we're all clear on it. We've requested a waiver from Section 19137B, which is the requirement for drive aisles and parking. It has to be more than 12 feet away from the property line. Basically, it's a tight site, and there's really not too much we can do about that. We've requested a waiver from 19137F, which is a slight encroachment we have into the PennDOT right-of-way. We have spoken with PennDOT representatives at the site, and I've represented to the Planning Commission. I'll represent to you folks. PennDOT has no designs or interest in that right-of-way. They don't care if we intrude on it, and when we get our highway occupancy permit, that will reflect it. We've asked for a waiver from Section 19144D to allow the grading of slopes within 5 feet of the property line. And I think that primarily relates to the back of the site where there's a retaining wall and some fairly steep slopes. We've requested a waiver from Section 19152B3 to allow disturbance of steep slopes, the slopes in question being man-made and not natural features, hence the waiver request. We've asked for a partial waiver from 19178C6, which relates to the requirement to demolish and remove all existing utility lines. Our discussions in front of the Planning Commission resulted with us modifying that to a partial waiver request because we simply don't know where all the underground lines are, but we have agreed to locate them to the shutoff point so we can know that we're terminating those utilities. We've requested a waiver from 19162B regarding the installation of curbs, 19139G regarding sidewalks. We had requested a waiver from 19148A regarding street trees. We withdrew that waiver because it was my understanding that the trees need to be placed at 40-foot intervals. The learning experience was concerned that a great deal of foliage on the street would block the site. But if we're putting one tree every 40 feet, that's not going to happen, so we can withdraw that waiver request. We had requested a waiver from 19136D, which called for a 5% grade on the driveway slope. At the time, we were at 8. We can make 5, so we are withdrawing that waiver request. And that's pretty much where I see the plan standing right now.
Could you address the setback from New Falls Road, please, to the building line?
The setback, and I'm not sure I understand exactly what the question is.
The setback, how far are you from PennDOT to the building line? And has your attorney or your engineer researched the requirement for that zoning on New Falls Road?
Let's use the
Speak into the
microphone.
microphone.
Yeah. My name is Mike Dipple. I'm the engineer who prepared the plans. And to address your comment or your question, the building is proposed to be set back 55 feet from the ultimate right-of-way line. So
You have to take the microphone if you're going to go. Sorry.
that line is shown here as the horizontal line back where the parking starts. From that line, we're set back 55 feet, and the minimum front yard setback is 70 feet. And the existing building right now is 3.11 feet, and we're setting it back 55 feet, which I believe we received a variance for that from the zoning board.
Are you aware how much concern there is from the residents who have to use New Falls Road? This Board of Supervisors had a traffic study, and we had our traffic planners in here, and this looks like too ambitious a project for so small a lot. Why have you chosen to squeeze that in where you require so many waivers? And, you know, but you're going to jam it in there on an already busy highway. I was relieved when St. Joseph the Worker Church was going to close because we were fearful about the citizens or the children that go there. And I took one look at this and I thought, I don't know who picked this lot for this project, but I think they made an egregious error.
All right, you can address that in a minute. We'll have other board members. Were you finished with your presentation in terms of?
Yeah, okay.
Okay. If you just give us an idea, Mr. Schaefer, I guess, or Mr. Dibble, whoever feels more comfortable. You know, you went through it pretty well. This is essentially a daycare facility, a learning center for very young children, preschool children, as well as infants. So you're going to have, will there be, you expecting buses to come in and drop kids off? You're just expecting, passenger cars?
No, there's to maybe familiarize you a little bit with the operation of the learning experience. They have some 300 plus sites throughout the country. They like to refer to their operations as a child development center, since they like to stress that they focus on an educational component, not simply the child care component. What they do is they operate Monday through Friday. They do not operate nights. They do not operate weekends. They have about 23 to 25 employees, not all there at the same time. Most are part-time employees. There is no bus service, no minivan service. There's no kitchen in the building. They will have a refrigerator. They will have a microwave. If a parent wants to give a child something that needs to be refrigerated or needs to be heated up, they will do that, but there is no cooking done on site. Deliveries are very minor, mostly paper products, mostly paper towels, toilet tissue, things like that.
Okay. All right, so you're anticipating that sort of the parking lot sort of being full early in the morning, And then sort of, occasionally maybe somebody comes at lunch and picks up a kid, drops
they
a kid off, and
anticipate
then-
the busy time to be anywhere between 6:30 and 8:30. They figure between that 2-hour period is when most of the people will be dropping off. Although they do make arrangements for half-day students, if someone wants to get dropped off at noon or picked up at noon, that's certainly acceptable to them as well.
Okay. Okay. And the 2 play yards, are you said segregated? I'm assuming they're also fenced in for the
They're fenced
protection
in
of the
with an
children.
8-foot-high privacy fence as per one of the zoning variances we requested.
Okay. All right. And for familiarity, those people looking, trying to figure out where this is, the site's actually bigger than I thought it was. This is a site that is right next to the large water tower on New Falls Road, right next to the Vermilion Hill Shopping Center. There's a large grass area. There's a sort of a hill there. I'm thinking going it this way. Hill there with the, and there's I think it's what the New Falls, the Falls Tavern or something, which is a sort of dilapidated old building that, like you said, is about 3 feet from the right of way as it stands.
Yeah.
And
I
then
think
another
it
building
was a
behind it.
tavern, yes, and
Yeah.
now there's a tree growing through it.
Yeah,
and
it's
in
been
bad
a
shape.
horrendous building for a while, so no one's going to be sorry to see that go. Okay. All right, and just to clarify, you're looking for, by my count, 6 waivers, correct?
Yes.
1 dealing with driveways, parking spaces 12 feet from the property line.
Yes,
1 dealing with being within 5 feet of the right-of-way.
yes.
1 dealing with sidewalks, 1 with curbs. You are, or maybe I got this wrong, you're looking for a waiver from the street trees or no?
No,
Okay.
no, we will ask you to consider that withdrawn.
All right, so the other one was slopes to be minimum from 5 feet from the property lines, correct? 191, 44D. See, disturbing existing slopes. I think that's it, right?
Correct. Well, those, and then there was a partial waiver to
All right.
allow us to show utilities up to the shut-off point.
Okay. Okay, all right. Okay, so I just want to be clear on that. All right, let's have comments and questions from board members. Mr. Zupka?
For right now, I'll pass.
Okay. I know Mrs. Kozlowski had the question earlier about this site and the size of it. I don't know if you want to comment on that now or why this site was picked.
Not to be flip, but the client picked the site, and I'm not really sure. All I know is Learning Experience does a fairly comprehensive survey before they go in anywhere. They look at population growth, they look at the ages of children, the number of children, the competition, and how close or how far away they are. They will tell you quite proudly they've never had to close a center because of lack of attendance. They will also tell you quite proudly that with the way America is going, daycare is a growth business. Everyone's going to be, all parents are going to be working, children are going to be in daycare, so it's a growth industry as far as they are concerned. And they primarily picked the site because they felt the need was there, and this was the location they could find.
I have another question.
Certainly.
To use your vernacular, not to be flip, but it occurs to me that the best site for this is on the Williams track, right near the charter school. A lot of open space down there, plenty of room for your school, nothing that's going to inhibit the people who are already dwelling and use New Falls Road. And I'm wondering if your clients who picked the site are here tonight, are they?
No, they are not.
Okay. I sure would like to have them appear at a meeting. I'm not embracing this project at all. We were being asked to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to correct the problems that already exist on New Falls Road, and I'm certainly not going to contribute to that problem by approving something as massive as this on so small a lot in such a congested area. So I do believe that it would behoove your customers. It looks to me like they did their study for profit, but they didn't do the study that would be something that would fit well in our community and would protect the citizenry from so busy a highway. It's been developed haphazardly over the years because New Falls Road is a road that stretches through a number of municipalities. It's narrow. It's only 1 lane each way. There's no room to confiscate property by eminent domain to make it wider, and that would be so time-consuming and costly. And certainly, this board member isn't willing to go the eminent domain route just so that your absent client can make a profit by squeezing this big project on so little a property. Now, I've said all I think I need to say about that.
Okay, Mr. Snipes.
Yes, did you say how many children do you estimate will be attending the center each day?
Yes, under state licensing laws, they would be licensed, a building of this size would be licensed for a maximum of 180 students. However, Learning Experience operates at 85% of capacity. They want room available in the older grades as the children grow, so they can be slotted into the four-year-old and the 5-year-old. Mm-hmm. So I think what we're probably looking at then is somewhere around 155 students or something like that.
And are the children arriving and staying all day? Are there several shifts? I'm trying to figure out when the traffic is coming and going.
The traffic will most likely be at its peak when you would expect it to be, between 6:30 and 8:30 in the morning and between perhaps 4 and 6 in the afternoon. They offer half-day programs, and some parents do take advantage of those half-day programs. But in terms of specific numbers, until the students are enrolled, I wouldn't know what those percentages would be as who's full day or versus who's half-day.
Right. Okay, thank you. I wanted to ask Mr. Sullivan, Mr. Chairman, if he could comment on the disturbance of the steep slopes, what impact that may have, and if you can think of a reason not to do it or to do it.
Well, the disturbance.
I mean, obviously we have our ordinance, but I'm asking in this particular case, how serious a disturbance
In this
is.
particular case, we're talking about man-made slopes on a small tract that provide
Can't hear you, Mr. Sullivan.
provide no natural resource of any kind. So they have to disturb the steep slopes if they want to build the project as they've designed it.
Correct.
I have no objection to them getting a waiver from this particular item because they don't present any kind of natural resource.
All right, thank you. And this is not a question, but just, from my own personal point of view, I would not be in favor of granting the waivers for the sidewalks and the curbing, just because we're actually looking at this street anyway and its ability to handle pedestrian traffic, bike traffic, et cetera, along the curves, along the sides of the road. Right now, sometimes we find that
I understand.
especially children are in the street rather than being on a sidewalk. So,
from conversations we have with the Planning Commission, it's my discussion there's a study going on about putting sidewalks on New Falls Road.
Correct.
It's also my understanding that you're not really sure which side of the road they're going to go on. And so I guess what we're hearing is we're either going to put the sidewalks on our side or we're going to pay in fee in lieu of, and the township will, or someone will put them on the other side, I guess.
I don't know. We haven't gotten that far. That would be a whole other conversation, but I'm just stating my own opinion at this point. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Mr. Dents?
I agree with the sidewalks and curbs. I think we all do. It is something that we did consider. But you said, looking at your plan there, to the right, the larger parking lot is employee parking.
Yes.
Yeah. And a concern would have to be, for everybody, is cars dropping off and picking up with 155 possible clients a day coming in and out and actually backing up, trying to make a left out of the parking lot. I think you're going to have to, have you done a traffic study? Obviously not, right?
Not on the parking. We've done a traffic study.
Right.
Keep in mind that one of the proposed changes, of course, is to make the drive aisle one-way in front of the building, which would eliminate dual traffic.
Even so, everybody in the morning rushing to drop their kids off, everybody's late. Do they take day trips? Are they in this school all day long?
Yes.
Do they have their own vans or anything?
No, they don't transport the children.
Camps or anything like that? They don't do?
They don't do anything like that. You bring your child there, you take your child home.
The cars going in and out is one of my concerns. That and the sidewalks. But that's all I have.
Okay. I know there's also, in addition to the review letter from Mr. Sullivan, I know there's also, I'm looking for it as I'm looking here, the Fire Marshal's letter from May 28th. I'm not sure if you have that.
No.
Okay. You can have this copy here. Take a look at this. It's regarding fire apparatus access roads. You can keep that if you want to keep that for your records. I guess and Mr. Dents and I have similar concerns. I also am not in favor of the waiver for sidewalks or curbs. I disagree with some of the earlier comments made. I think, if anything, this makes this particular area a little bit safer because you're taking a building that's 3 feet from the road, you're knocking that down, and you're pushing everything back. So there's nothing, you know, as close to the road as is now. I think disagree. I think a lot of people would with the idea that, you know, closing St. Joseph the Workers' School was a good thing. I think that was not a good thing. I know a lot of people are very upset with that. That's obviously not your issue. But if you have your parents are coming in the morning, and it probably isn't 155 cars, because certainly, you know, parents will have 2 or 3 kids are dropping off at the same time. But are they? I'm assuming they're parking.
Yes.
All right. Well, I don't see enough parking spaces for 100 and let's say 100. Let's be charitable. Say 100 cars between 6:30 and 8:30. Where are they parking?
Well, the parking in front of the building. I mean, we've had these conversations with representatives from the Learning Experience and other projects. I will tell you what they tell me, and that is that they know how many spaces they need, and they know what their peak hours are, and they're not going to propose a plan that's going to cause inconvenience to their customers.
Right.
It takes anywhere, by their guesstimation, for about 3 to 4 to 5 minutes to get out of the car and drop your child off. They have what they call a child safe and secure program, and basically anybody can enter the front door, but then you're contained in a little vestibule. Right. And unless you know a particular PIN code or you swipe an ID, you can't get through the second door and into the building. Right. And what they do is they go into that vestibule through the second door. There is a receptionist there. The child or children are left with the receptionist. Mom or dad leave. So they feel that the turnaround time is relatively short.
Okay. I know Traffic Planning and Design did a review of this, a pretty extensive review of this, and I see it was done by Mr. Baker, who happens to be here tonight on a different issue. But we'll pull him into the fire, I guess, if he doesn't mind here. Would you mind just giving us an idea? Would a traffic study be warranted here? I mean, this is something I'm assuming TPD or any traffic engineer could do, just models of daycare centers and spaces they need and time for drop-off and that kind of thing. Would you mind just coming to the microphone, just commenting on them? I'm sorry to hit you cold with this. I saw your name on the study, so I'm assuming you looked at it. And it is from June 16th, so you're giving a little bit of leeway.
Yeah, I wasn't prepared to speak on this tonight, so I don't remember all the details of my comments.
Okay.
But generally speaking, yes, I mean, it is pretty common to do a traffic study for a site like this. I honestly don't recall if I mentioned it in the review letter or not.
I didn't see it.
I think, if I remember correctly, though, the township ordinance is pretty lenient with the types of uses that require a traffic study.
Okay.
I'd have to go back and double check that, but I think the size of the building or the trips were
trigger something like
yeah.
that.
Now they'd also have to go in for a PennDOT permit, and
would PennDOT require them to do a traffic study?
They possibly could, yes.
Okay, but if we had them do one first, then PennDOT wouldn't make them.
They would just accept, as long as it was done according to the PennDOT criteria.
Right.
PennDOT would accept that study as well.
Okay.
So they could do one study and submit it to both the township and PennDOT.
Okay.
I have a question for Mr. Dipple.
Thank you, Mr. Baker.
What?
I'm just thanking Mr. Baker.
Oh, these May 25th drawings are the current ones, or has that been changed again with parking spaces?
No, we're working on some of the changes that were requested by the Planning Commission.
Which was removing parking spaces?
Yeah, what we did is, first of all, the learning experience requires a certain number of spaces, and they will not let a project.
Oh, sorry, you got to use.
Could you use the microphone?
Yeah. That's all right. We forgot to.
The learning experience will not allow a site to be constructed with less than so many spaces. I believe the number is 41. We show 41 spaces where your ordinance requires 37 for this type of use, so we're 4 over. The Planning Commission had an issue with these 3 spaces right here because the driveway is located at this location, and as cars would back out to make the move to go this way, there could be a conflict right here.
Okay.
What we did is we eliminated these 3 spaces and we moved them to the end because we have this amount of property still that's being unused. I think when we worked that out, I just haven't looked back at the plan since I've done it, we actually picked up another space because there was an odd configuration down
Right.
here. So I think we're at 42 spaces right now. But at a minimum 41, because I'm not allowed to go below that threshold.
Right. I'm going to piggyback, I think, on Mr. Dent, if you don't mind, Jeff, for a second. What about the 3 spaces to the far western side where there's smaller exit ways? Those 3, is that a concern too? If cars want to back out of there, everyone's sort of coming down, or?
I don't think so, because I think you have a full line of sight. I think coming down in this direction or cars backing up here and saying would work just like any parking lot.
Right.
I mean, obviously
Right.
with a car parked next to you, there is a bit of, inching back to make sure you can get the visual. But at this location, I think that's still a safe maneuver.
Okay, all right, yeah, I can see that.
May I be heard,
Done,
please?
Well, I want to see Mr.
That's
Dent's
it.
is finished.
I'm done,
You're
yeah.
finished? Okay, Mrs. Wisłowski?
Yes. It's been my experience for 46 years of watching this township that common sense is not so common. And I believe that ought to be a requirement for every elected official. I respect anyone's right to disagree with me. But if we take a look at that property, if my memory is correct, right near the water tower is a dilapidated old building that's been there forever. And that's okay, I wouldn't mind seeing that plowed down, but not at the expense of creating a nightmare in traffic by squeezing something. You're talking about 11,000 square foot building, 1 story. Now, there's 960 square feet roughly in one Fairless Hills home. So imagine seeing 12 Fairless Hills homes all banded together right on that property near that water tower. That just won't work. That is cramming something where it does not belong, and it will cause a worse kind of traffic nightmare than we are presently experiencing. And in my opinion, New Falls Road needs remedial work, not Band-Aid on a bleeding artery. And so we don't want to wound that area any further, where it's going to take an act of God to straighten it out. I have not seen anything that I felt as negative about as I do this. And sirs, you would not have any way of knowing, but I served on this board back in the 70s, and it was I who spent hundreds and hundreds of hours writing the zoning ordinance. So make no mistake about it, I do understand it. And I am telling you that that is not a suitable project for that site. And I certainly will oppose it.
Okay, let's, if there's any public comment, if anybody has at the moment? See none? Okay.
Mr.
All
Chairman,
right, so, yeah, Mr. Zupke, yeah.
when I saw this project coming up, I did, I'll say, do some research on the learning center, and you know, they are regarded as one of the better types of, we'll say, daycare that's out there. But with that said, and the concern that has come up well, I shouldn't say recently, but the concern has come up with traffic. I just really see a real nightmare developing on New Falls Road. New Falls Road, other than maybe 4 o'clock in the morning, it always has traffic. Now we're going to add, maybe not within a half hour, but we're going to add another 100 cars or so entering and leaving. And frankly, and well, the other thing I'll say, I'm not real big on waivers. To me, if we need more than 2 waivers, not just on your project, any project, I usually turn it down because you've got the wrong spot. But I'm more concerned with the traffic there, and New Falls Road. You're close to the high school, which the traffic from there and the people traveling back and forth. As much as I'd like to see the landscape in that area, the older buildings that are change, I have a real concern about what's going to happen with the traffic there, and I can't support this at this time.
I'd like to make a motion to table this project to a date certain so that the public who have to use New Falls Road can know that we are considering this project and will attend that date certain meeting.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion to table has been made and seconded. There is no debate on the motion to table. Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Zepka?
Yes.
Mrs. Wesłowski?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
No.
Mr. Dents?
No.
Mr. Snipes?
No. Mr. Chairman, is there any way for us to have a conversation about a possible traffic study?
With, well, I mean, I guess we'd ask Mr. Schaefer, do you think your clients would be willing to conduct a traffic study of this site, for this project? I mean, that seems to be the big issue here, is the concern about the number of cars and that flow of traffic in and out on what is a pretty busy road. Mm-hmm. What's your feeling on that?
I would certainly recommend to them that they do it to address the internal traffic flow issues as well. I believe that the initial study we did showed that this project in and of itself is not just going to all of a sudden bring these cars to New Falls Road. They're already there, and that's part of the clientele that the learning experience is hoping to tap into.
Right.
But my client is always interested in working with townships, and if this board feels that an additional traffic study on the parking, or maybe if you want to clarify the parameters of that study, I can certainly take it back to them and recommend that they do it.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, the traffic study is not my only concern. The size of the building is my concern. The request for setbacks is my concern. And the safety of our citizens is my concern. Don't try to pretend to me that there are that many young children right on New Falls Road who will be coming to your facility. Your facility is well-known. It will attract people from far and wide, and it will create a traffic nightmare there. So those are my concerns. It's not limited to traffic study.
Okay. I forgot to mention, I apologize, I think I did this before to you, Ms. Mintz, that Michelle Mintz is sitting in tonight as our solicitor. Mr. Clark is exploring the West as we speak. Can we make as a condition, I guess, of approval for the preliminary land development that a traffic study should be done on this property to take a look at traffic flow within the parking lot as well as the impact of traffic on New Falls Road?
Yes, you can, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. All right. Well, that's an option for board members if that's something that we want to take a look at. I've heard, well, I know there's 3 board members already. All the board members have talked about waivers. I know 3 of us specifically have objected to waivers for curbs and sidewalks. That would leave waivers for the waiver for the property line, the waiver for the 12 feet, parking 12 feet from property line, grading 5 feet from property line, as well as the steep slope disturbance. And
Mr. Chairman, there was a comment, about a partial waiver, which I didn't understand. Is that actually listed in here?
that is for, what was the number on that again?
Actually, as Mr. Dipple and I are conferring, I may have misspoken. That was 19136D.
36D. Right,
That was brought out in the TDP letter in paragraph 7, which basically pointed out to us that the ordinance requires driveways to be a 5% grade. We were at 8%. I think I said to the board we were down to 5.
Down to 5.
I've been reminded that I've been clarified. That's an error. We're at 8.
All right.
So that is a waiver request that I'm regrettably putting back on the table, and I apologize for the confusion.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
the partial waiver was from 19178C regarding utility locations
Right.
and shuttles.
Yes.
So,
178C. C6 or just C?
78C.
Just C. All right. Because we don't have that in our review letter. What we have is 19178C6,
Okay.
but not 78. Okay. All right.
No, that's correct. 19178C6 is correct.
Is correct.
It's correct
Okay.
citation.
I just erased that. Now I got to put a pen in here. All right. Okay. We already asked for public comment. All right. Okay. So are we looking for, is there a motion at this time, or are the questions?
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
I'd like some clarification on the western driveway. Did you say that was going to be left out and right out as well?
Yes, exit only, but both ways.
No entrance, exit only, both ways.
Correct.
So that's going to be a wider driveway when you come back with your revised plans.
Most likely, yes.
Yeah. Well, it's 18 feet, and that wouldn't be enough for two-way, or two cars side by side.
Right. And it's going to be one way, as you said before, in front of that road.
Drive
be one
aisle
way.
in front of the
Is
building
drive
is
aisle be
one way.
Do you intend on changing the aisle width in front of the those parking spaces?
No.
You leave it at 25 feet one way?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Is that all right?
It's okay. I mean, 22 is minimum, so 25 would be okay.
Okay. All right.
I have one more question. You said there's not going to be any just straight drop-off. Everybody's going to have to park to drop their children off.
Yes.
Okay. It just doesn't seem like it adds up. There's, I mean, I know you have the required parking spaces. It just seems like a big.
So you're
traffic
wondering
problem.
if
55 people.
even 100 cars are dropping people
Right.
off all in the same time
50
block, and there's
cars.
only maybe 10 spaces available. The others are full with employees. How is that going to work?
Yeah, and that's something I'd like to see, but I think the traffic study will take that in. We'll take a look at that. I think that's what we need, quite frankly. I mean, I don't know the inner workings of a daycare center. Obviously this is a company that does it all over the country and has a couple hundred of them, so you'd assume that they have a little bit, well, certainly more knowledge in that respect than I do. But I think having a traffic study done would answer that question for me.
So what are our options to approve preliminary with requiring a traffic study and denying some of these waivers, or should we table it pending a traffic study? Or I mean, I don't know what the best way to proceed
I think we
is.
can do any of those.
Do either.
I do see one hand for public comment. Is there a motion to open public comment?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Are we putting the sidewalks on that side of the New Falls Road?
We don't know at this point yet, but
I mean, can the waiver stand until you guys decide what side of the road you're putting the sidewalks on? They can put them in so it all flows continuously when they put the sidewalk in, because it's dependent upon where they decide to put the sidewalk. These guys might be 3 feet closer to their building, and then there's going to be an S-turn in the sidewalk.
Oh.
At the time that we decide to put the sidewalks in on what side, or if we even decide to put them in, can we allow them to put them in at that given time, as opposed to just saying, hey, you have to put them in now? Because elevations change, just like that gentleman came here. Elevations of the road will change. Maybe the sidewalks will be a different height, and then you have an uneven sidewalk or a turn in the sidewalk that you wouldn't really need. So they would still have to put them in, but at a given time when you guys decide where the sidewalks are going to go.
I suppose it's something we could do. I don't know if we want to, but it's something we could do, I think.
All right.
I understand your point.
Yeah, it
but
just sort of makes more sense because, who knows where you're going to actually place those sidewalks, or if you're even going to put sidewalks in at all.
Right.
Because if they're the only people on the whole street that have a sidewalk, what's the point of even having a sidewalk at that point? Maybe they throw 2 extra trees in. I don't know, but it just doesn't make sense to have them put that in now. If
Right.
a year from now everyone's going to be putting in sidewalks, or the township's going to line 3 miles of sidewalk down that road, I just didn't think it made any sense for them to start that project at this point. That's
Okay.
all. Thank you.
All right.
May I be heard, please?
Well, wait, we have somebody else for public comment.
Well, while she's making her way up here, I would like to say I believe we have the cart ahead of the horse. And I think the motion to table is the one that is the most sensible tonight. Let them go back to the drawing board and convince us that it's not going to create a traffic nightmare for all of the people in Falls.
Norma Lynn Bloom, Falls Township. I'm sorry I missed the presentation. I was a little late getting here. But my question is, this is near the shopping center where we have DeBar?
Yes, correct.
Okay. There was a school there in that shopping center.
Yes, in the shopping
The
center.
Montessori Charter School was there originally. And even if it's down further, the traffic from the charter school has already been there and gone. That had buses, it had private cars, and so maybe it's not quite as big a problem as we may make it. Thank you.
No, that's an excellent point. I'd forgotten about that. Okay, any other public comment? I see no hands. Is there a motion to close public comment?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, so as Mr. Snipes has pointed out, we have a couple different ways to go. We could approve the preliminary with a couple of these waivers and require a traffic study to be done. We could table with the condition that there be a traffic study and give, I said we'd have to give them a certain date, would we? Yeah, so what's,
Yes.
not sure what the, maybe Mr. Baker or somebody can give us an idea of a traffic study. What's the ballpark time for a traffic study of this nature? Mr. Baker, give us an idea roughly. You're getting your money's worth tonight.
I don't know who their engineer's going to be, but generally you could complete a traffic study. It could take a week or two. The only thing I'd caution you, I guess, we wouldn't really want to do any traffic counts probably until September when school's back in session.
Right.
So,
Okay.
You're looking at least a month to 6 weeks probably.
A month. Okay, a month to 6 weeks. Okay. All right. So if we did table, we'd have to table to, say, the first meeting in October, just as an idea. Okay. All right, thanks. Just give us an idea of that.
I make the motion to table to either the first Tuesday in October or the third Tuesday in September. I believe if everyone gets busy and gets their act together, we might be able to consider a total project rather than a mishmash that we're looking at tonight. And no waivers. Motion to table.
I'll second that.
All right. Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Zepka?
Yes.
Mrs. Wislowski?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
No.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Well, no. But I just like to comment that I feel very positive about the project. I just hope that we could have, no, I guess what I'd like to say is if we table it, I mean, that's actually fine with me, but I'd like to make sure that we're clear with the folks that are here what we're asking them to do.
Yeah, that was
And I
why
would like to personally say on my part, I don't have any opposition to the project. It just seems there were some quirky little things in here that need to be worked out so that we feel and the community feels a little more confident, but I don't feel negative about it at all.
Right. I
I
voted.
agree the same. I mean, I'd like to see the traffic study
Right.
before we can move forward. I'm not opposed to the project, but the way it looks right now, there is like you said, a lot of quirky things.
Right. Likewise, my vote against tabling was simply because the table motion did not have in it the stipulation that a traffic study should be done before you come back. That's
Correct.
what I wanted to hear, and that was not done. And so I voted against it for that reason. So I guess with that understanding,
I have a question.
you gentlemen can...
I would like to know, I see New Jersey all over these plans, and I see executrix. It would seem that the property is in the hands of someone who's probating a will. Are they from New Jersey, the owners? And I would certainly like to see them come back to the next meeting.
The property is coming out of an estate. My client is the equitable owner under an agreement of sale. I believe the executrix is the daughter of the owner, who she resides in New Jersey. I think the owner lived in Bucks County.
Would that owner be a Mr. Else?
The daughter, the owner now is a woman named Joan Else. Yes.
Thank you. I request, please, that your client attend the next meeting.
Just for point of clarification, so as to not get any mixed signals, Joan Else is not my client. I can request her appearance here, but I cannot command or produce her.
Your client is...
Client is the LP that is developing the project.
Right, right. Understood. Understood. Thank you very much, and I know we've given you some direction, and...
Do we need to have a brief discussion on the parameters of the traffic study? We're concerned about traffic counts, you want them after school starts, and you want
Yes.
internal
Drop
traffic
off
flow
and
to be
pick up.
examined as well.
Right, we want to see, how that, what the impact is going to be, what the expected impact is in terms of added traffic on that road, coming in, dropping off, leaving, the frequency, morning, mid-morning, afternoon, that kind of thing.
Understood.
Okay?
Okay, we have our marching orders. Thank you.
All right. Okay, second item on our agenda is the Mill Creek Inn. This is a final land development plan. Mr. Gray?
Yes, Mill Creek Inn, final plan of land development. They are located on Mill Creek Road. tax map parcel 13-40-21 and 13-40-23. The applicant is proposing 2 additions totaling approximately 1,250 square feet to an existing bar restaurant. Representing the applicant tonight is Mr. Doug Maloney and Mr. Heath Dumack.
Good evening. We are before you seeking, as Mr. Graves indicated, final approval. You last saw these plans in April. At that time, you granted us preliminary approval. You granted us some of the waiver requests that we were requesting. You didn't grant all of them. We're hoping that tonight you're not going to rigorously apply Mr. Zupka's 2-waiver rule because we're asking for 4 this evening. But I think you'll see that they're relatively minor in nature. We have a resolution which is acceptable in form, and the conditions in the proposed resolution are fine. Very briefly, once again, just to revisit what we're proposing, basically the Mill Creek Inn is sort of an L-shaped property, L-shaped building. We're filling in the empty space in the L and a small area that's going to be additional restrooms to the rear of the property. The portion of the L that we're filling in is on the east side of the building, and the portion that faces Mill Creek Road. What started out as a very small project in Mr. Bissol's mind, just to add some area to the structure, turned into a very large project that's going to result in a new septic system, expanded parking area, a very well-defined driveway area, and a lot of overall site improvements. When we were before you, we received some of the waivers, as I indicated. The waivers that we didn't receive that you wanted to consider, and I don't think that the board felt that they were inappropriate to grant. They just were not prepared to grant them in April. I think you wanted us to look at them, see if we could sharpen our pencils, maybe eliminate them, and come back before you. With regard to the curbs and sidewalks, what we didn't present to you at the time, because frankly I was unaware of it, was what the frontage actually looked like. And with regard to curbs, you were interested in particular in curbs and sidewalks in the area between the 2 driveways on the property, I believe, as I recall. You asked us to take a look at that, and what there is between those 2 driveways is a retaining wall for much of the frontage, and then a fairly steep embankment that's landscaped. As you probably know, with regard to curbing, there's basically 2 functions that a curb satisfies. One is stormwater management, and it directs flow one way or another along a street, and another is just safety of the buildings. Respectfully, I'd submit that between the embankment that's landscaped and has fairly large stones in it and the retaining wall that's along the roadway, both of those functions are satisfied. There really isn't any point in having a sidewalk along Mill Creek Road. I think you'd agree. We discussed this with Mr. Bissol, our client, and the owner, and what he has suggested that might make sense is that if in the event that you're inclined to grant the waiver, if you feel as we do that really there's no particular reason to have curbs and sidewalks at that particular location, he'd be happy to add a note to the plan that in the event that the township ever does install curbs and sidewalks along the rest of Mill Creek Road, he would put it in it, or the owner would put it in at their own expense at that time. That way the township's interests are satisfied in trying to capture curbing and sidewalk at the expense of the owner wherever possible. But rather than putting in maybe 150 linear feet of curbs and sidewalks where there aren't any other curbs and sidewalks around now, we think that might make sense and satisfy the township's concerns and Mr. Bissol's as well. The 2 other waivers are with regard to floodplain disturbance. We have eliminated a couple of our parking stalls were proposed to be in the floodplain. We have eliminated them. We have reduced the floodplain disturbance to the absolute minimum that we can get by with, and that is all of the floodplain that we're proposing to disturb is for the septic drain field. Can't put it anyplace else. This is the only place that we can put it on our site, and the existing septic system is, I guess to put it charitably, antiquated, and we think that this would be a tremendous improvement to the property. The Board of Health has approved this location and this particular septic field that we're proposing. So would ask, and just so you know, I think that you'd probably agree that the floodplain disturbance waiver that we're requesting is de minimis. It's less than 1%. I think it's 0.87% of the floodplain, something along those lines. So we've cut it down to the bare minimum, and we just cannot get by without this waiver. Finally, the last waiver that we're requesting is with regard to monuments. We're going to install all the monuments for 2 parcels, except for those that are underwater. As you know, a significant part of the property is devoted to a quarry lake. I asked Mr. Dumack if his firm would be able to put monumentation in the bed of the quarry lake, and he said he couldn't do it. But
some stuff. I think there's some.
He's never been asked that question before, and we're hoping that he's not going to be asked that question this evening.
There's some equipment in the Gulf of Mexico might be able to do it. I don't know if we can get that. I'll get that up here, but.
So those are the 4 waiver requests that we're asking for this evening, and we'd ask that you give us a final, subject to the conditions in the resolution. I will tell you something else, and it did not make it into your proposed resolution, and that is, in candor to you and in fairness to the township, at the Planning Commission, they wanted one very small area paved that would connect what you'll see as a lift area. This is on the western side of the driveway. That be connected by macadam paving to the driveway. That didn't make it onto your resolution, I think because it's not in any review letters, and we had agreed to that as a condition, and I didn't want to mislead you and try to skate out of a condition that the Planning Commission had imposed on us as part of their recommendation for approval.
Mr. Maloney, I drove down there, I took a look at it, and it's my opinion that the owner took a sow's ear and made a silk purse out of it, and I like what I saw. The vegetation is beautiful, but the trellis is tipsy. You got to fix it. It looks like it's been in the bar and came out drunk.
Okay. All right. So finished, right? Wrapped? Okay.
Yes,
okay.
we're finished.
All right. Comments or questions from board members? Mr. Zupka?
Thank you. I'm going to direct this question both to you and Mr. Sullivan. On the monuments, I was under the impression with the monuments, when it's at the edge of a body of water that does not change with any type of tide, that the monument could be put within 3 foot of the edge of the body of water with the measurements and the coordinates on it of how far out and which direction it goes in. Is that something we should do, or I'm thinking of something totally different?
Mr. Dumack is a professional land surveyor as well as an engineer. He's more qualified to answer that question, but I'll tell you, I've never heard of that, so
okay.
He'll tell you something.
What you're discussing briefly is an offset monument, and we could do something of that sort in line or on line with the proposed lot line change, but the actual physical corner is nowhere near the edge of the lake. But we could, if it was the pleasure of the board, we could set one in line, and it would be a certain distance off, and that would be in the record plan.
Myself, I think it would possibly in the future, it might end or stop some type of other, we'll say,
encroachment.
A property line encroachment, and the other thing, it would eliminate another waiver, which would get me closer to my minimum of 2. Thank you. That's all.
Mrs. Vislowski?
You're not planning to sell that property anytime soon, are you? It won't bother me if we don't have the monument, because if the metes and bounds are clearly set forth, I don't think there's any need to be worrying about the boundaries, and especially not in the middle of a body of water.
I think I own that whole property there. I have no intentions of selling it. It's my family, it's my heritage.
He only wants to give you 2 waivers, and I'll give you the extra one.
Mr. Snipes?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'm confused about what you say you're asking for 4 waivers?
Total of 4.
I see 2 here, and I'm wondering
They're
where the other 2 are.
Yeah, those 2 are also duplicated in the rest of it, but also page 2.
On the resolution, I can give you the numbers. Number 3 is sidewalks.
Yeah.
Number 5 is the floodplain disturbance.
Number 8,
Number
9.
8, monuments, and
Right.
number 9 is the curbing.
Curbs, okay.
Okay. So on that page, 3, 5, 8, and 9.
3, 8, and 9.
I will support all 4 of the waivers, just for the record. And if you noticed, I'm discussing it and I'm going to vote on it tonight. Circumstances have changed.
Mr. Sullivan, do you have any concern about the septic field being disturbing, 0.87% of the FEMA floodplain?
No.
Okay, I realize it's a very small point. I also realize it's putting the septic field into the floodplain. I'll be interested to hear what the other board members have to say about the sidewalks and the curbing, although I understand the comment about maybe having that so that if sidewalks are ever placed later on, that would be required. And I'm not worried about the monument question. That's fine. That's it.
Okay, Mr. Dents?
Last time they were here, my concern was the sidewalks and curbs, and after the meeting, I went down and met with Mr. Bissell down there, and we walked the property, and I'm comfortable with it as it is now. That's all I had.
Yeah, that was also my concern at the time, which is why we approved some of the some waivers then and held off on some others. But I didn't get a chance to meet with Mr. Bissell, but I did go past the property and took a look at it, and I'm fine with granting those 2 waivers. I did want to see, I'm taking a look at the fire marshal's letter from May 3rd. I'm not sure if you gentlemen have that. Most of the comments are pretty simple. Do you have a copy? Do you have one or no? You have one? Okay. All right, so I didn't know if you just wanted to address that. I'm assuming those are all will complies.
Yes, they're all will complies.
Okay. All right, thank you. Okay. Those are all the questions I had. Any public comment needed? I see no hands. All right, then, if this were approved, this is final land development, resolution 2010-15. 15. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, motion's made and seconded. Mrs. Pullen?
Second.
Yes.
Mrs. Slosky?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
And just a point of clarification, that did include the waivers because the resolution form did not include.
4 curbs and, yes, not,
5, 8, and 9.
yes, correct.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Okay, item 3 on our agenda tonight is consider West Trenton Avenue Transportation Improvement Study, proposal from Traffic Planning and Design. I'll ask Mr. Baker to come up in a second. Board members will remember there was some discussion maybe a year and a half ago. Lower Makefield was going to be doing suggested doing some signage changes to some of their areas in the near the Burgess Manor section of Falls. That would have had a very negative effect on the people of Falls who live in that area. And so we asked them not to do that, and they complied. In the course of that discussion with the people from Burgess Manor and people from Lower Makefield and people from Marsville, it was determined that West Trenton Avenue seemed to be the problem, that there were some issues regarding traffic, issues regarding the lights on that road and how well they were synchronized. Did they let traffic flow at a good rate? And the thought among a lot of the people that live there is that they don't not synchronized well. The road is not really being used efficiently, and so people start to look for other ways to sort of bypass things and get around, and they were cutting through certain sections of Lower Makefield and cutting through sections of Falls, and they started to raise the possibility of doing a traffic study on West Trenton to see if there was something we could do. A few weeks ago, I was contacted by Mr. Tony Doherty from TPD, who let me know that there was a grant available that would allow for such a study to be done and paid for through the state. And so sort of working very quickly here, I did reach out and talk to some people from Marsville, or somebody from Marsville, a councilman who said that they were interested in doing this. We made some contact with Lower Makefield, and their manager is going to bring it up with their board tomorrow night. And one of the things we're hopeful of is if this board decides to go ahead and authorize the preparation of this application for a grant, is that having 3 different municipalities signed on to it gives it a much better chance of getting approved than if it was just if it was just us. The state, likes to see that they're getting a lot of bang for the buck, and they can, approve a grant that makes 3 different towns happy. That's good for them. And so I'll ask Mr. Baker just to come up and just touch on the proposal that TPD has put together. And this is just for preparing for the grant and applying for the grant, which has to be done relatively soon, right? Which is why we're sort of hurrying along here. But go ahead.
Yes. We submitted a proposal dated August 16th, 2010. And again, it's for us to complete the application for submission to PennDOT. And this falls under their funding program, which is titled Pennsylvania Communities Transportation Initiative. PCTI is the acronym for it. And the proposal is in the amount of not to exceed $2,000. And just to explain what this program is all about, first of all, as you said, it's due shortly. It needs to be submitted by September 15th. I believe they're going to make a decision on which projects are accepted by the end of the year. And then those projects need to be completed by, I believe, the summer of 2012. The projects can be planning or construction projects. The one that we've identified here is a planning project for West Trenton Avenue. It's proposed to extend from Route 13 to River Road through Morrisville Borough and Lower Makefield Township, as well as Falls Township. And then what we would do is, as part of this proposal, would just be, as I said, complete the application, which would be developing a statement of the problems, talking about how some of the solutions could fit in with PennDOT's Smart Transportation Program. And basically what they're trying to do there is, as Mr. Harvey said, is trying to get really the most bang for their buck. And I think they're starting to realize, well, they are starting to realize, not just in Pennsylvania, but throughout the country, I guess, that the solutions we've used in the past aren't necessarily the best thing. I mean, building more roads and more lanes isn't always the solution. Now they're looking at changing land use, working with municipalities, getting the adjacent municipalities to work together, along with planning agencies in the county, and trying to come up with more of a plan that considers cost, considers the impacts on the adjacent property owners, traffic, pedestrian safety, encouraging multi-modes of transportation, such as bikes, pedestrians, bus, transit, things of that sort. So the idea is to try to come up with a plan that helps promote those types of things. And yeah, I think that's pretty much a summary, unless you have any questions.
Okay. We'll ask board members for comments or questions. Mr. Zipka?
No, I have none.
Mrs. Kozlowski?
I have none.
Mr. Snipes?
When you say that not necessarily just widening roads, if I can just put it that way, is necessarily a solution, what are some of the other things that communities have done, just out of curiosity?
Well, just in general, I think the smart transportation ideas, as we mentioned, it might be signal timings or additional lanes, signing, access management. It could be sidewalks. Trying to get, again, just more simple projects, not these grand things that, putting a bypass in or something like that. Trying to work within the context of your constraints and just, there's all sorts of things it could be. I mean, I can't really say for sure it's this or that.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Dents?
Just want to comment that when I was down there last year, 2009, and I met with a lot of the residents that live in the Falls Township section of Burgess Manor, and there is a traffic problem down there, and it's been that way for a while. So, this is a good idea, I think.
Okay.
One other thing I wanted to add that I guess I didn't get into. Under the program, for planning projects, you're allowed to ask for up to $300,000. If it was a construction project, you could ask for up to $1.5 million. There's only $24 million available to the state this year. So they're going to have to figure out a way to spread this out. And our thoughts are that if we keep the project smaller, on the smaller side, we'd probably have a better shot of getting approved. Again, with having 3 municipalities involved too, I think that would help our odds. So we're probably thinking this is somewhere around $75,000 to $100,000 to do a study of this nature, and we think that would help, that we're not asking for the maximum. And this is I want to point out, this is not a grant. This is a reimbursement program.
Okay. Okay. All right. All right. Comments or questions from the public? See no hands. All right, then. So we're looking to authorize $2,000 for TPD to create the proposal for the PennDOT PCTI funding application. Is there a motion?
Yeah, so moved.
How much was that?
$2,000.
2,000. I think you said 200,000.
No.
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's what I thought I heard.
Sorry, 2,000.
Yeah, so moved.
Seconded.
All right, Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Zucker?
Yes.
Mrs. Wolarski?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dent?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Baker, and thanks again for the earlier help you gave us on the other issue.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Okay, next item on our agenda, consider authorizing notice of intent to award for the Fallsington Library renovations. Mr. Gray?
Yes, on August 16th, bids were submitted to Falls Township, and they were publicly opened for the Fallsington Library Improvement Project. 8 bids were received. Of the 8, the lowest bidder was Milestone Construction Management, a base bid of $191,971.94, with an alternate number 1 of $25,996, and a total of $217,967.94. It is recommended that the Board of Supervisors authorize the Township Engineers Office, T&M Engineers, to issue a notice of intent to award to Milestone Construction Management for the bid cost of $191,971.94.
Okay. All right. I see a few people here from the Fallsington Library, Amy Harris in particular. And I know we've talked with this before, this issue and what we're doing with Fallsington Library, but would you mind just kind of giving us a rundown, just real quickly, of what renovations are going to be done with this project?
I don't believe that's necessary, because I certainly know that I am very much in favor of this and have been all along.
Well, it's not an issue of being in favor or against. I think, some people just may not know what's going on with Fallsington and wants to know where the money's going.
They watch the tapes, they know.
Well, not everybody does, Mrs. Wisłowski.
If I said green, you'd say purple.
Go ahead.
And I'll be quick.
Thank you.
The money is a grant. It's not coming out of township coffers.
Right.
The money is to preserve and renovate the library in Falls Township. Primarily, it's just structural. It's the roof, the windows, the doors, all to preserve and save the library. Because right now, as anyone who comes to the library knows, the books are great, the inside is great, the staff is great, the building is suffering.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, it's not coming out of township monies. It's
Right.
a grant from a federal grant
Mhm.
that we've been pursuing for a number of years.
Okay.
So it's
right.
there's a long laundry list. Primarily, like I said, the steps need to be repaired.
Right.
We are handicapped accessible, so we want to maintain that. The roof, the windows, the doors, shelving, and flooring.
Okay.
Okay?
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
There's a book I'm looking for. Would it inconvenience you if I called, or should I wait until after the renovations? Good, thank you, and I'm glad you're there.
Mr. Sullivan, can you give us an idea of Milestone Construction Management? It's not a firm I'm familiar with.
They haven't done any work in Falls Township as of yet. They did do the substation project in Middletown Township recently. They also did, I think they were involved in Manor Elementary, but I wasn't here at the time they were working. That was early 2000s. They've done anywhere from $50,000 projects to $20 million projects. Did a number of library renovations in the city of Philadelphia. And they've done some renovations of historical structures to new standards, also in Philadelphia. They are a Philadelphia firm. They appear to be eminently qualified for this project.
Okay. All right, it's good to hear. They have the experience with historic buildings, but also with libraries, too.
That's
Okay.
correct.
All right. And the grant, the CDBG grant that Mrs. Harris was talking about, which is paying for this, how much is the grant for, Mr. Gray?
Approximately $201,000.
Okay. All right. Okay. Comments or questions from board members? Mr. Zipka?
Thank you. Why don't we do the shells to complete the whole project? We can't get all the money from the grant, because that would take it up to what, 217? If
Correct.
Milestone.
Yeah, so we, and obviously it's up to the board if, the board would like to, spend the
Well, if we can get,
$16,967.
we're going to get 201,
We're getting correct. We're getting 201 through the grant.
so we need another
16,
16
17,000,
something
right.
to do the whole job and get
Correct.
it done and have a great piece of history here back.
I think it's a good idea. It's like buying a new Easter outfit and forgetting to buy a bonnet. So I'll favor spending the extra money gladly.
Any other comments or questions?
That's it.
Okay. Mr. Snipes?
No, I think it's an excellent project. I think we should move forward.
Okay, Mr. Dents?
No questions or comments.
All right, and I don't have any either. I'm fine with the township picking up the tab for the extra, for the shelving, rather. And it would keep Milestone Construction Management still the lowest bidder, even when you put the two together,
Yes.
whether we went with the base or the alternate, so it doesn't complicate anything. Let's see, so is there any public comment needed? I see no hands. Okay, is there a motion then?
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
If I may. Out of that $201,000, there's an additional, there's about $10,000 of that will go for engineering.
Okay.
So we have about $190,000, even though we have a total of $201, $10,000 that is allocated.
So it would be 27 the township
approximately
would be putting
27,
up, which I
yeah.
still think is for the history and of our township. I have no problem with it. I don't know if anybody else does.
Nope, I'm prepared to make the motion to advertise a notice of intent to award the bid to Milestone Construction Company, or Construction Management Company, for the improvement of the Falsington Library in the amount of $217,967.94.
Okay, motion made. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All right, second, Mr. Zipka. Mrs. Pohl?
Mr. Zupka?
Yes.
Mrs. Kowalski?
Absolutely.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dent?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, yeah.
We like books.
All right, let's see. Okay, item number 5 on the agenda is consider authorizing notice of intent to award for the 2010 road project reconstruction. Mr. Gray.
Yes, on August 11th, bids were publicly opened for the 2010 road improvement program. 4 bids were received. The lowest bidder was James D. Morrissey Incorporated for a bid of $2,679,196. It is recommended that the board authorize the Township Engineer's Office to issue a notice of intent to award to James D. Morrissey for the bid cost of $2,679,196. At this time, the board is asked to consider this item.
Okay. Comments or questions from board members? Mr. Zipka?
No. Actually, seeing the Morrissey Company being the low bidder, I think it just shows the times that are out there, that here's such a large company that usually does all state work and interstates and turnpikes, and they just want to keep all their people employed and their equipment operating, so they come up with a very good price. I'm for it.
Mrs. Fislowski?
I favor the Morrissey Company over the company we used for the other projects.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. I wonder if Mr. Sullivan wants to comment at all on the nearly, well, $900,000 or $1 million difference between the low bid and the high bid. I'm looking quickly down the comparison, and I can see that they're quoting very different prices for the same items of the same work, and I don't have the experience to analyze that and know why.
Well, the other two companies don't usually do this kind of township road work. They do other things. Sarah Valley does a lot of large road projects in and around the city of Philadelphia. They haven't ventured out here into the suburbs that I've seen. Scott Building Corp., I know they have a couple of very large projects going on, so they may not have been as interested in sharpening a pencil for this project. And the other two contractors, Morrissey had a very positive experience with us last year, so I think that's why they came back.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Dens?
No comments or questions.
Okay. And as Mr. Sullivan just pointed out, Morrissey was one of the contractors who did the road work in Pinewood and Elderberry and Willowwood. They have Willowwood too, Mr. Sullivan?
I'm sorry?
Did Morrissey do, there's a couple of roads in Willowwood, right? Did they, or no?
Yes.
Yeah, they did.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, and General Asphalt had some of the other ones.
Morrissey did Elderberry section.
Okay. All right. All right.
Yeah, General did Willowwood and Pinewood, and Morrissey did Elderberry.
Okay.
Last year.
Okay. I did want to, Mr. Gray's occupied the second. Mr. Gray, what did we budget for this part of the road program? Did we split it up that way? Did we not split it up that way?
Yes, we did split it up. The dollar amount,
I believe this portion of the project was budgeted at $3 million, so we've
Okay.
come in under budget.
All right, so it came in about a little bit more than $3 million under budget with this. And this road program, we've already done part road program. We've done a restoration, which is just milling and overlaying in sections of Birch Valley and also a small section of Frails Hills. And this is more the full depth reconstruction. This would be going on the other side of Route 1. Is there any public comment needed? See one hand. Is there a motion to open public comment?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Gallo Sobert. Item 5 says project reconstruction for the 210 road program. Is that for the whole program?
No, I just said we divided up the road program this year. So some of the roads that had been done a long time ago merely were milled and overlaid. That part's already done. Those roads are already finished. This is for more full depth total reconstruction.
Okay. But the reason I ask, because you got item 7, item 5 says award bid for the 210 road program project, and item 7 says you're going to have a change order already.
Right. Yeah, that's
the change order in the original program.
That's for the change order is for the first part of the program, which was the mill and overlay.
Okay.
Okay. Any other public comment needed? See no hands. Is there a motion to close public comment?
So moved.
Second.
Second. All right. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right then. We're looking to give a notice of intent to award to James Morrissey Incorporated, the 2010 Road Improvement Program Reconstruction Project, in the amount of $2,679,196.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Seconded.
Motion made and seconded. Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Zupka?
Yes.
Mrs. Weslavsky?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Item 6 is consider adopting resolution authorizing reimbursement of permit fees for sidewalks, aprons, and/or curbs. Mr. Gray?
yes, the board is asked to consider this resolution. Basically, what this, the board is asked to consider through this resolution, any homeowner whose road is to be included on an upcoming road program may be eligible for reimbursement of permit fees for the installations of sidewalks installed during the current or prior calendar year before the road restoration project begins. The board is asked to consider this resolution.
Okay. All right. What we're looking to do basically is we've had this issue come up before regarding a 2010 road program where some people had put in new sidewalks last year in front of their house, not realizing that the road program was coming to their street this year, let's say, and now that may end up tearing up the sidewalks that they just put in. And so this would reimburse them for the permit fees that they applied for if that happens. So it unfortunate that it happens. We took steps through Mr. Gray to make sure that anybody who comes in wants to do work, apron, sidewalk, driveway, something like that on their road, that they have an idea of when their road might be done, if their road hasn't been done already, so they don't go ahead and put money out for something that's going to get done anyway. So this would reimburse those people that sort of fell through the cracks, as it were.
Question.
Yes.
Will this be retroactive?
Yes, this would be for, yeah.
Prior year.
Yeah,
How
for prior
far
years.
back?
I don't think it's goes back. You mean in terms of if somebody did their sidewalk in 1992 or something like that? Is that what you're referencing?
Well, if they did their sidewalk in 1992 and weren't notified.
The road program came in 93.
All right.
Yes.
But I'm giving you used an example. I was just using your example as a springboard. Let's move up to a later time. Let's go to the year 2000. And if we didn't properly notify those people that they were going to have their roads repaved and curbs and sidewalks done within the next year, will this cover individuals like that?
Yes.
How far back will it go? I go back to my original question. Retroactive to when?
I don't think there's no ending date in terms of retroactivity. It says that you have to, if you've done work on your property, sidewalk, curb, apron, or driveway apron, and the road program comes that year or the next year. So obviously we can't do something like, if somebody did their sidewalks 5 years ago and now the road programs come through, no, we can't do anything about that.
No, but it'll go back to the inception of the road program where,
I don't think
where if their street was done in 2000 and they did their work
in 99.
In 99.
Yeah,
now
I don't
they
think this resolution has any kind of restriction on that.
Well, the yardstick should apply to everyone. I'm for fair and equal treatment to everyone if they meet the parameters of why we are reimbursing them at this stage of the game.
Right. Yeah, no, I understand your question. No, there isn't any restriction. It doesn't say, only back until 2005.
They'll be considered, if someone sends a bill to the township, they'll be considered on a per property basis.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Correct.
Good.
Yes. Okay. All right, other comments or questions? Mr. Snipes?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. It's a little confusing the way the resolution is written. I understand that sidewalks collectively means sidewalks, curbs, and aprons. I would rather it had said sidewalks, curbs, and aprons. Someone else reading this might just see sidewalks and think, that's all it relates to, but it does relate to sidewalks, curbs, and aprons.
Yeah, it says it in the title, so I think.
Yes, I understand that. There's another question I have, but if you want to go on to Mr. Dents, I'll come back to it.
Yeah. Mr. Dents?
No, I have none.
No, you're back on the hot seat, Mr. Snipes. He didn't help you out.
Sole cost and expense of the town. I'm sorry. I'm trying to pinpoint here exactly so we can say what's being reimbursed. Is it simply the permits?
Yes.
Okay. Correct. Okay, just wanted to make that clear. Okay. Thank you.
Is there any public comment needed?
I don't think that's right.
See no hands. Okay. All right, so this would be Resolution 16. 16. Okay. All right, then, is there a motion to...
No, I need clarification. The gentleman who appeared at our last meeting and it did a most recent renovation.
Yes.
Not having been told.
Correct.
And it's my understanding now that we're voting on just giving him money for his building permit.
Correct.
But not for the money he had to spend. My idea, and I expressed it then, was that the bidder who was supposed to pave that should give him reimbursement for every dime he spent. And if they don't do that, then leave it alone.
What? If they don't do that, we would what?
Then we don't redo it. We deduct that from the contractor's couple of million that he's going to get for it. Because I understand that it was Falls Township's fault for not handling this in proper notification for the individuals who went ahead and did their sidewalks and curbs because They were deteriorated to the point where they were concerned that they would be sued if someone tripped and fell. And they weren't notified that they were on the road program for resurfacing or redoing the sidewalks and curbs. And I think that it's not proper for us to award a contract to a paver, no matter who it is, and not have him reimburse the fellow if he's going to tear it up and do it again, or else leave it alone. That's what I think is fair and equitable. And if that case came into my courtroom, that's how I'd judge it.
Okay. Any other comments or questions from board members?
Mr. Chairman, we've had some discussions on what the township would be able legally to reimburse, and I think we cannot reimburse people the cost of what they spent to, say, repair a driveway apron, because we're not able to, in effect, give a private individual a payment out of funds that belong to all the taxpayers. And I don't know if we would, as Mrs. Vislowski is asking, we'd be required, I don't know how we would require a contractor to reimburse someone for work that the contractor didn't actually do. I can't quite figure that one out either.
My conscience would require me to do it. That is why I make the suggestion, because if Falls Township was at fault for not providing continuity in notifying the individuals who had these problems, which were indigenous to their own properties, then I believe that we have culpability. And my suggestion is not that the Falls Township taxpayers reimburse those individuals, but the contractor who does not have to repave those sidewalks and curbs and whatever. They need to be looked at on an individual basis. But that's what I consider fair and equitable.
Mr. Sullivan, can I say something?
Sure.
It's not a terrible idea, but his sidewalk, the gentleman we're speaking about, that is going to have to be redone anyway, right? His curbs, even though they were done last year?
Yes. Not all of his sidewalk, but certainly his curbs and his apron, and the sidewalk immediately behind the apron will have to be redone this time. But not all of his sidewalk will be torn out.
Now, in the what Morrissey has bid to do, are they doing all sidewalks or just as individually as needed?
Just as individually as needed. And all residents will have an opportunity to pay the contractor to do more sidewalk if they wish, just like we've done every other year.
And normally the cost of doing the sidewalk is less because the contractor's already mobilized and out there.
Right.
Correct.
Than if they had just gone out and done it on their own.
So the aprons as well are on an as-needed basis? Or they're doing all the aprons on the street?
All aprons and all curbing is replaced.
Right.
And all sidewalk behind the aprons is replaced.
Because of the grade?
Right.
It still doesn't even it out. Had the homeowner been notified that there was a viable plan, and that plan called for certain topography to be accomplished, then that homeowner, if he did it wrong and wanted to jump the schedule, then that would be different. But he had no notification. He used the same grade, the same topography, to replace his curbs and sidewalks that was there. Now, we're nickel-diming him by saying, oh, well, you know, tough darts, you didn't know it, but he didn't know it because we didn't tell him. Therefore, I believe that he should not just get his building permit fee. I believe that they have to leave his sidewalks alone, or the contractor has to subtract that cost out of his contract and reimburse that homeowner.
That would make sense, but Mrs. Vislowski, they still have to rip his sidewalk and apron up.
Right.
Because it's going to change the whole grade.
They're just going to pass the cost on.
I understand.
100%. If they don't have to touch his, and he paid to have it done, then it would be deducted. That would make sense. But in this case, it's going to have to get redone anyway.
No, we were remiss in not letting him know that topographical studies indicated that the grade was wrong. You need to understand topography a little better, Mr. Dents.
No, I understand that. Go ahead. I'm done.
Yeah, that's
It's done.
Can I ask a question, Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
I don't know whether you had personal conversations with Mr. Smith, who was here, but I do believe that he felt that the reimbursement of the permit fees that he paid was a reasonable resolution of this. I believe that's where he was coming from. I don't know if that was your impression.
I think so too, and I agree. I mean, obviously, the reason why we're doing this, we're looking at this, is because, and I think we all agree, Mrs. Vislowski, that if someone did their sidewalk or curb or apron and they weren't told, it is our fault. And so this is something we can do. Forcing, I'm not sure we can force a contractor to pay someone else money, and in the end, it's only going to cost us more money because they're just going to bid higher to cover the costs of having to do that.
Has the gentleman been contacted to tell him what this board, in all their wisdom, has decided to do? Because he may not be happy about it. I don't think I would be happy about it if it were my sidewalks and curbs that I replaced without being told that the great big contractor was coming in and he was going to change the elevations. Now, it's a matter of simple justice. I expect it to go 3-2. So, you know, like I said before, if I say purple, you say green.
Okay. All right, I think Mr. Snipes just indicated that he's had a conversation with Mr. Smith and told him what we were thinking about doing, so.
Trust Snipes.
No, that's your problem.
I can carry him.
All right.
I thought we were going to look at the people that already had it done in a reasonable time before their streets were done, of reimbursement on an individual basis.
That is what we're doing.
Yeah, I don't mean just the permits, the other work, and it's not stated in here.
Yeah. No.
If it was stated in here, that we will look on an individual basis on the work that property owners had done in a reasonable time. That would be fine with me, but it's not stated in here. It just states the permits. I thought the whole discussion before was we were going to not only the permit fees, we were going to look at what they had done and handle each one on an individual basis.
No,
not just the permits, the work.
Right. Yeah, I don't recall that part of being the conversation, but certainly I think this is something we probably could look at to do further. I'm not sure we're allowed to do that, but I think this at least is something we can enact now. We can always add on to it later if we're allowed to and if we choose to do that, but this is something I think we can do now.
Mr. Chairman, if I were preparing the agenda, I would have had this item ahead of the bids, and we could have not awarded a bid until we had an understanding with the contractor. But everything's backwards around here. We always get the cart ahead of the horse.
Ms. Vislowski, you've had the agenda and the material for since Friday. So
yes, since Friday.
You had a chance to look at it.
I have an out-of-town guest, and I have had hospital stay. I didn't have a chance, and I don't like getting paperwork dropped in my mailbox the day before or the day of the meeting. It's always last-minute rush to accommodate people that come here and use this board, these 3 members, to make money.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
Before you spoke, I was going to say that, there may be something more we can do. I don't know about the legality of it.
I don't either.
But certainly this is a good start. I believe this is what Mr. Smith was interested in.
Right.
And so I certainly support it tonight. If there's more we can do, we can research that, and we may be able to do more.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to make a motion to table this so we can get it correct the first time, and even, it'll take another, I guess, until the next meeting to do it, but I'm going to make a motion to table this for tonight until the next meeting and get the wording in there also about handling each property owner that has spend money to have work done, and it'll be handled on an individual basis along with the permits.
I will second your motion.
Okay, motion made to table. Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Zepka?
Yes.
Mrs. Vislowski?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
No.
Mr. Dent?
No.
Mr. Snipes?
No.
All right. So we're looking.
I want to.
Go ahead.
This is covering everyone that's had anything done since the start of the road program.
But just the permits,
Right, which I was under the impression legally that's all we can do.
See, I wasn't. And that's not the way I remember the discussion. I remember the discussion about reimbursement.
And these are all going to be individual, case-by-case basis.
But it doesn't say it in here.
I mean, it's up to the homeowner to come forward and request the money.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like the minutes to show that I am leaving the meeting at 9:20.
Very well. All right, so.
You did.
All right, so let's just.
Mr. Chairman, I don't know whether we.
I don't remember.
Whether our
Vince, did you
solicitor
have
could
a
comment.
Comment?
I would have to say that we have to look into the legality.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you. I'm sorry.
We would have to look into the legality of any other type of reimbursement to the residents besides the permit fees.
Okay.
Before I could comment on that.
Yeah, I think we've had that sort of discussion before with Mr. Clark, and he wasn't sure that was something we could do legally. So, but like I said, and I think Mr. Snipes said it too, this is something we can do. I think it's admitting, obviously, that we didn't, it was a step that we missed, and so I think it's important to do it now, and we can change it if we see it as something we can do later on, we can do that. So this would be
May I,
resolution.
Sir? This solicitor is new here tonight. This is the first time I have seen you, young lady. Welcome.
Thank you.
As far as the legalities are concerned, it should have been done right in the first place with a clear understanding. The resolution is sloppy. I know you didn't write it. I know who wrote it, and he's sloppy.
Okay. All right, so resolution 2010-16. Is there a motion to accept or adopt, rather, resolution?
Yeah, so moved, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. This motion made. Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
All right, Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Zepka?
My vote is no. I think it's incomplete at this point.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Okay, item 7 is a change order for the 2010 road project. As we stated earlier, there's 2 phases to the road project. One was restoration, or rather quick mill and overlay of some projects that were done earlier, and then there's the full depth reconstruction. So this would be a change order for the project that was already done, did some roads in Birch Valley as well as some in Farrell's Hills. Mr. Gray?
Yeah, the board, excuse me, the board is asked to consider change order number 1, a decrease of $8,271.76 from the original contract with General Asphalt for the 2010 mill and overlay program. The board is asked to consider this change order at this time.
All right, so this is money we get back, in other words.
Yes.
This is, we're not paying more, we're actually getting money back. All right, Mr. Sullivan, how'd you do this?
Yes, I'll take all the credit in the world for this. What happened was, when the roads were milled, we found a lot of different things. Most of the base was okay, but it wasn't very thick. So rather than doing a lot of base repairs and then paving over that, we went with the same procedure, I think, that it was done about 20 years ago in Birch Valley, which was put down what's called geotextile fabric, as opposed to making excavations and base repairs. You put the geotextile fabric down, you put tar, and then you pave right on it. And it should last another, 15, 20 years in that way. And that's what was done originally in Birch Valley, like I said, about 20, 25 years ago. Over in the Farrell's Hills section, there was really very little base, and the roads were kind of falling apart. So what we did was a curb mill, which is a mill along the curb lines, and then pave right on top of what was there. We put down some more fabric where necessary, where there was some bad spots, and that and we used a little less top course. So we kind of changed the design of the roads as we went along, and ended up saving $8,271.
Okay. All right, comments or questions from board members? Mr. Zupka?
Thank you. Mr. Gray, this is the first time I ever remember a change order that we've reduced. We've gotten money back, we'll say.
Actually, we've had quite a few of these.
Does this also mean that Kevin Cobb and the Eagles are going to go 11-5?
You never know.
Okay.
I think we did have one about a year or so.
Yeah, we've had a couple of these. Yeah, we've had a couple of these.
Very unusual, though. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Snipes?
No comment. Good news.
Mr. Dents?
No.
And I have none. Is there any public comment needed? See no hands. Okay. All right. Is there a motion then to authorize change order number 1, which is, I guess, what would you call it? A decrease of $8,271.76.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
I'll second it.
All right. Motion made and seconded. Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Zupka?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Okay, next item on the agenda is consider approval of a mutual aid agreement with municipalities of Bucks County for fire service. Mr. Gray?
Yes, the board is asked to consider a mutual aid agreement with the county. This agreement states the township will share resources, equipment, manpower, or any other form of assistance that may be requested by other municipalities in the county or the county itself. Recently, there was a large fire in the Doylestown area, and several municipalities were called for help during the fire investigation. And due to the large scope of the fire, we were unable to help the other municipalities out because we are not part of this mutual aid agreement. And at this time, the board is asked to consider this mutual aid agreement, which will allow us to share our resources. This has been reviewed by the fire marshal and the chief of police, and they both recommended this item, and the board is asked to consider this item at this time.
Okay. All right, comments or questions? Mr. Zupka?
No, let's move forward with it.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I support it completely. I'm a little surprised that we weren't able to respond. I don't know all the legalities behind that. I think in an emergency is an emergency. We should be able to, but if this backs that up, all the better.
I guess this is adding us to a list of people that cooperate.
Yes.
We just weren't on the list in the past.
That's correct. I think we're the only municipality that's not involved with this.
It's not like we hung up the phone when they called and said sorry.
No. But
All right, that's all I had.
Okay, and I don't have anything either. Comments or questions, public? No? Okay. All right, then, is there a motion to approve the mutual aid agreement with municipalities of Bucks County for fire service?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. All right. Item 9 on our agenda is consider authorizing adoption of a code amendment to Chapter 168 Parks. This is the ordinance that was referenced by Ms. Fisher earlier in the meeting regarding leashes. Just want to clarify what this says. This applies only in township parks and says that if you're walking a dog, or it says pet, I guess, but nobody really walks anything else but dogs. If you're walking a dog, it has to be on a leash no longer than 10 feet. The reason for this, we've had a couple instances where people had leashes that were very, very, very long. One case, I think a park security guard said there's a woman or somebody who has a dog on a rope that's about 100 feet long. And it limits the amount of control you can have over the animal. Obviously, if you're that far away from the animal, people that are rollerblading and riding bikes, if you've got, cords or leashes crisscrossing, the walkway, the pathway there, that's obviously not safe. And also if the dog goes after something or someone, you don't have a whole lot of control if it's 100 feet away from you. So this was sort of a compromise going with 10 feet. Again, this only applies to the parks in terms of the limits on the lengths of the leash. Dogs have to be leashed in Falls Township everywhere, no matter where they are. But there's no limit to having, if you want to walk your dog on your street, you've got a 20-foot leash. This doesn't affect that. This is just for parks. So we last month, I believe, we authorized the advertisement for this, and so we're looking to adopt this ordinance. Comments or questions from board members? Mr. Zupka?
No, I have none.
Mr. Snipes?
No, I support it. If there's anybody here tonight who walks their dog, I'd be happy to hear from them what they think of it. But
Dents?
otherwise.
No comment.
And I don't have any either. Any public comment needed? I see no hands. All right, then this would be ordinance 2010-04. 04.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I wholeheartedly support this. My wife and I do make regular walks around the park, and in most cases, the people that are there seem to do. I believe they are doing a very good job of controlling their dogs, and it's a shame that in the past one or two have or maybe it's more than a one or two, but the majority of the people really try hard, and I just do get a kick out of every now and then you see one of the dogs that are a little larger, and it's not just the young ladies that are there with their dog, even the gentlemen with the dog. Sometimes the dogs are pulling them along, but I believe people really are making the attempt over at the park to control their animals. But this is a good move, and I think it's just it's setting the tone of what people should be doing with their dogs.
All right. Is there a motion then to adopt ordinance 2010-04?
So moved.
Moved. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Zupka?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Okay, ordinance, item number 10 on our agenda is consider adoption of another ordinance, this one regarding retirement. Mr. Gray, I'll let you speak on this one.
Yes, at the last Board of Supervisors meeting, the board approved authorization to advertise for a change to Chapter 74. This adoption will provide the Public Works Union the opportunity to sign with PMRS as their pension company. Currently, the Public Works Union is with ICMA. At this time, the board is asked to consider adopting this ordinance change.
Okay. And this is something that the Public Works Union wants, correct?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, so it's not something we're forcing on them, just to give an example. And it doesn't, the cost to the township, there is no cost, right, basically.
No.
It's just shifting where the money's being put, what account.
Yes, absolutely.
All right, comments or questions from board members? Mr. Zupka?
No, they've wanted this for, well, I shouldn't say for a while, but yes, they definitely are looking forward to this.
Okay, Mr. Snipes?
No comments, no.
Mr. Dents?
No.
Public comment? See no hands. Okay, is there a motion then to approve resolution 2010-05?
So moved.
Seconded.
All right, Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Zupka?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Okay. Item number 11 is consider approval of ET&T agreement, and that's it is ET&T, not AT&T. It's a little bit of confusion, but it does deal with telephones, so people were confused a little bit about that. Thought Mr. Gray got it wrong. Go ahead, Mr. Gray.
Yes, at this time, the board is asked to consider a general maintenance agreement with AT&T. AT&T is our telephone provider here at the township. They've been serving this capacity for about the last 10 to 15 years. They are offering a 3-year extended maintenance agreement for $15,255. This would go into effect June 20th, 2010, and continue through June 19th, 2013. Township is satisfied with AT&T. Our liaison, Matt Markey, indicates that AT&T does a fine job and they have a good relationship. At this time, the board is asked to consider this agreement.
Okay. All right. Mr. Zupka?
No, I have nothing.
Mr. Snipes?
No questions.
Mr. Dents?
Nope.
And I have none. It's $15,255 total, not per year, if you were curious. Any public comment needed? See no hands. All right, is there a motion then to approve the 3-year lease agreement with AT&T, or excuse me, a 3-year agreement with AT&T for telephone service in the amount of $15,255?
Yes, so moved, Mr. Chairman.
Seconded.
Motion made and seconded. Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Zupka?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Okay, item 12 is consider termination of a lease with Hale Smith. Mr. Gray.
Yes, the board is asked to consider a lease termination agreement with Hale Smith effective July 1st. Hale Smith did vacate their premises, their space here at the township on June 30th. Currently, their lease expires on November 30th, 2011. As part of the lease termination agreement, Hale Smith would pay rent through November 30th, 2010. If another tenant is found between now and November 30th, Hale Smith would not be responsible for that particular rent. At this time, the board is asked to consider this lease termination agreement.
Okay. Hale Smith had, rented space in this building for a while. The economy being what it was, they could no longer afford it. The agreement that Mr. Gray worked out was that they would pay for the 6 months up to November, and then we would forgive them the following year or the year after that. Mr. Zupka, comments or questions?
None. Seems fair.
Mr. Snipes?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Dents?
No.
I have none. Any public comment needed? See no hands. All right, then is there a motion to approve of the termination of the lease for Hale Smith?
So moved.
Seconded.
All right, motion made and seconded. Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Zupka?
Yes.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, item 13, consider authorizing advertisement of a 2011 Community Development Block Grant hearing for the Senior Center. Mr. Gray?
Yes, shortly the township will be filing a grant with the Bucks County Department of Community and Economic Development for $385,195 for the Falls Township Seniors Citizen Center expansion. As part of the application process, the township must advertise and hold a public hearing to discuss the project. At this time, I am requesting the board to consider approving authorization to advertise notice of this public hearing.
Okay. So this is part of the process, like you said. In order to apply for the money, we first have to authorize, this public meeting so people can come out and be heard. Comments or questions from board members? Mr. Zupka?
Well, this is just to advertise to start the process.
Correct.
No, nothing else.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Do we have to advertise a date for the grant hearing?
I don't think we have to advertise that right now. This is just setting up the fact that we will have one at some point in the future, and we'll announce a date
we're
later.
just required to advertise that we're going to have a
date.
hearing at some
Yeah,
point?
we have to have a hearing. It should be the week before the second meeting in September. At that time, the second meeting in September will be brought before the board for approval, and then we'll submit the application. The application will be brought before the board. Then we'll submit the application to the county, and that's due the last Friday in the month of September.
I guess I don't understand why we just don't put that date right in the announcement.
Have we confirmed the date yet with the
believe it's-
architects and with everybody else, or have we confirmed it yet, or no? We know it's that second week.
It's going to be I believe it's the 15th. It's a Wednesday at 2 p.m. I think that's the date we're shooting for.
All right. So tentatively set for the 15th of September.
Yes.
But it will be sometime during that second week.
Yes.
And if we don't put a date in there, then what are we announcing?
Well, it'll be in the newspaper announcement.
Yeah, we're authorizing advertisement to put it in the paper to pay for that.
With the date?
Well, yeah.
Yes, it'll
Okay.
have the date.
Okay.
I
Date
was
certain.
confused about that also.
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought we were just advertising that we were going to eventually have it. Didn't make sense.
Okay, that's the only question I have.
All right, Mr. Dents.
No, he cleared it up.
Okay. All right. Any public comment needed? No. Okay. Is there a motion then to authorize the advertisement?
Yes, so moved to authorize advertisement for the 2011 Community Development Block Grant hearing regarding the Falls Township Senior Center.
Seconded.
Okay, motion made and seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Let's see. Just wait for, I'll let people speak first, I guess. That's what I do.
Yeah.
All right. Let's, we have a couple names here on the list. Let's see, Liz Fisher already spoke, so, okay. First name on the list is Guido Mariani.
These two with the Kings. They got a 2-for-1 deal? Which I think is
We're laughing at the guy behind you more than you.
Yeah.
This is one of those replacement parts.
Ah, okay.
For a senior. Thank you, young people, for providing the funds.
You even got a T-shirt, I see? They gave you a T-shirt?
I haven't done it St. Mary's, and I just want to take a second. Pull that one out. Okay. Had it done at St. Mary's, and that's quite the place. I've taken a tour there. We're fortunate to have this here.
Is the microphone off?
Is it?
Just tap on it, see if it's, yeah, it's off.
Off? Anyway, it's, hold on.
Wait, just a minute. Don't worry, clock hasn't started. Dead?
Yeah, dead completely. Give me a second.
All right.
I'm still taking hearing.
Oh, wait, we can't, sorry, but we have to, quick change, see, they're already ready.
Wow.
Got a battery handy?
There we go.
It's
Thank you.
impressive, Mr. Markey.
Well, I had this replacement part, being a senior, and Actually, they're supposed to last between 10 and 15 years, and they were, in their own delicate way, advised me that at my age, I probably won't have to have it done again. But I had it done at St. Mary's, and that's quite a place. We're fortunate to have this medical facility here, and if you get a chance, you really ought to take a tour through it. As a matter of fact, I had this joint replacement. I love this joint, and that means my new joint and St. Mary's. Now, briefly, I guess Jerry's for a minute. Off the top of your head, can you give me a cost analysis for what we spent on costing out these projects, like the senior center, the boat ramp, and the incredible sidewalk, which may or may not someday be done, probably will be on New Falls Road? Do you have an estimate of what did we spend to cost these projects out?
Just to do the estimates, you mean?
Yeah, estimates like 40,000 to do this and
No,
so
the
on
study,
and so
the
forth.
study for the sidewalk is the most recent one. That I remember was about 40 or 45,000 to do the
45, and
whole
of
study.
course, you add that to the senior center and so on and so forth. Quite a bit of money that we spend to do these projects. Now, with each of these, what I consider to be unnecessary and actually unwanted projects, what the board is doing, you are making budgets, believe me, that are not sustainable without waste management fees. Eventually, these fees go away, and what you've done, you have required a tax increase with every one of these projects. Every project that you've made and done is going to require a tax increase on the people of Falls Township. And with each one of these projects, you've had people come in, give a public presentation, and a cost analysis. If we do the project, this is what it's going to cost. Now, during several meetings, I've asked this board to consider a geothermal system for our building. And according to studies by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, they say it's the most efficient option that's available. The U.S. Department of Energy lists the benefits of geothermal. Free renewable supply of solar energy, efficiency rating is like 5 times higher than ordinary heating and cooling, savings up to 70% what we're expending now for this building. The investment could be recouped within 3 years. It's just a fantastic thing that we ought to get involved in. There are state and local grants available for this. I always called it the reliable renewal. It doesn't require a backup system like solar does or like wind. And, you know, the sun doesn't have to shine with this system, and the wind doesn't have to blow with this system. And I think that this township, and I'd like to see you, schedule a public presentation. Have some people come in. There's a lot of people available to do this. Let's cost it out, and let's see what kind of an efficient system we can come up with. I think there's great promise for that. And again, being a reasonable type of environmentalist, I look for these kind of things while we're waiting to develop some of the other renewables, like solar, so on and so forth. Right now, they're not ready for these kind of projects, but I think you ought to consider it. I'd like to see it done. I'd like to see somebody come in here and do geothermal. Let's take a look at it. We might even think we want to get into it and do it. Okay? I thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, Roland Kinney?
Roland County, Falls Township. Again, Mr. Clark, you look well.
Thank you.
Better than usual, right?
First, I want to say goodbye to Patricia Reynolds. I can still remember the first time I came in this building, and she asked me if she could help me, and I told her what I wanted for Addenroe. She says, I don't know where to find it, but I'll find it. 2 days later, she called me and said, UPS will be dropping something off the other day from Doylestown. And she got me it. She did everything with a smile. She's number one. I hope they have a picture of her over there, like we have Mr. Carr next to him. Two good people we lost. Next, I heard on the meeting, last meeting, I wasn't here, that the field, things are being done with the field, Challenger Field. Did we get money from Mr. Gallo yet? Did his check come in?
I'm sorry, from Mr.
Galloway.
Yeah, Galloway, I'm sorry, Galloway.
We have money from the state that we are looking to use for this Challenger Field project.
And how about Miss Dorothy? Did her man come through with the 40,000?
No.
Then I would like the check from Miss Dorothy to be given to Mr. Gray to put in the bank for that project. She promised us if it wasn't given when the fields get started, she would turn over a $40,000 check. I want to see the $40,000 check. It's for the children. She ought to do it. If I said I'd give $40,000 if somebody didn't give it, I'd come up with it. I'd probably sell my house, but if I promised I'd give it. With that, I'll say good night, gentlemen.
Okay, thank you. Kim Lake?
Hi, I'm Kim Lake from Fairless Hills Athletic Association. First, I wanted to thank the board members who attended our opening day, Mrs. Wislowski, Mr. Harvey, and Mr. Dents. It made it really special to me. That was a big day for me. We have been in contact with Mr. Harvey regarding a field being built for our 13 and 14-year-olds, and it's down by the boat ramp. I don't want to bring that up. This is the first year that we've had a team of 13 and 14-year-olds at our league in years, probably since my older son played there. It's important that the 13 and 14-year-olds have something. Usually kids go on, they try out for school ball, but not everybody makes it. Right. And, if they don't have anything to do, they kind of tend to get in trouble. So we want to make sure they have something. We want to keep the ball rolling on with you guys, touch base with you, make sure if you need any information from us or anything, you could just, contact me or Joe Jones. James Dunn was the coach last year. We actually had to lease a field from Philadelphia Biblical College for $150 a game, and there's usually 13 or 14 games a season, so it was really a big expense to us. I'm trying to think what else I had to say. Sorry.
Yeah, I have been. That's okay if you don't mind. I have been emailing back and forth with Mr. Jones, and I did have Mr. Sullivan take a look. And I think the field we sketched out that would fit down there was it 300 or 320 to the fences? Do you remember? It was one of the two.
I think either one would have been fine. 320 we could fit, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a matter of it'll fit. That's not an issue. I know we did make a lot of contact, made a lot of calls to the other Levittown leagues, to Pennsbury as well, to see if there were fields that could be used, and there just weren't any.
Right.
Telway Town had a field, but they were in the process of demolishing it as I was talking to the person on the phone. So that didn't work either.
Behind, what used to be Levittown Shopping Center was their field.
Yeah.
We went to Pennsbury. We said we know that with budgets and everything, we'll take care of the fields. They really didn't want to work with us at all.
Yeah.
And this field will be taken care of us just like Von Hoffman, taken care of by our volunteers, just like Von Hoffman is throughout the season.
Right. Yeah. So it's just a matter right now. I mean, the boat ramp should be getting underway hopefully pretty soon. Knock wood. And then once that's finished, then putting the field in there is really not that big of an issue. But we'll start. We have a sketch and it'll fit. That's one of the things Mr. Sullivan did, was to see if it would fit. What's it going to look like and where's it going to be? It's going to be right next to the parking area, so it's going to be convenient for people to get to. And it's just a matter of it'll get done. We just have to wait for this A to get finished before we move to B.
And the other thing was, is it going to be for all age groups, including the senior citizens, that use Von Hoffman, or is it going to be specific just for 13?
Have had a couple. We're probably going to run. We haven't talked a lot about it. Probably going to run it through the Park and Rec Department, where they'll be responsible for sort of leasing out the times and things like that. I think that's probably the fairest way to do it. I have had some conversations, again, emails with people who are looking for softball fields, adult softball fields, and the concern is that adult softball fields usually don't have a mound, and this one obviously will have a mound. I guess it's something that, the one individual said they'd work with it to be fine. It doesn't matter to them as long as they have a field, so.
Right. We
but-
also have a portable mound that we purchased to
Okay.
use at Von Hoffman that I'm sure we could use at this field.
Okay, all right.
So we just wanted to keep
No, I appreciate that.
top of everybody's
Yeah,
mind.
and thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. All right. Gal Sobert?
Good evening again, Gallo Sorbert. I'm one of the old guys also, but I haven't gotten a cane yet. I'll get there eventually. I have 5 items I wanted to talk about, and I'm not going to get to all of them, and I know that. But one thing I'd like to bring up first is this Thursday and next Thursday. This Thursday at 7 o'clock in Fallsington is a special school board meeting. And the following Thursday is the regular school board meeting, and that'll be at 8 o'clock. I'd like to ask all the people in Falls Township to start attending the school board meetings. That's my announcement there. How's our shovel-ready project coming for the lights at Tyburn Road and New Falls Road? You do that you go through that intersection every day, right, Mr. Harvey?
Every day, at least
and
once
it
or
goes
twice.
bumpity bump, 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 pretty bad.
Well,
I'm
yeah.
just curious. We got $114,000 for that project, shovel ready. It's been what, 2 months, 3 months?
Mr. Gray?
What'd we do? Break the shovel?
Township received notification late July, I believe it was, from the Delaware River Joint Toll Bridge Authority that we did submit the application to for approximately $115,000, that this particular application was denied. So we did not receive the funding to do that project.
Right. So we applied for the grant. We had to wait for them to award the grants, and they decided not to give it to us.
The hearing assisted equipment is not working. I can hear me talking, you can hear me talking. I can't understand words that some of you people say, so it just gets to be a one-way conversation at this time.
Okay.
And so forth, so, okay. We did a stop sign study, I believe, for $2,400. A couple months ago, we awarded that for one stop sign.
For last month. For
That was in Thornridge section?
Yes.
T-Rose, yeah.
I looked on the code book, and we got over 411 stop signs in Falls Township. Did we pay $2,400 to have a survey done for every stop sign in the township? Is that,
That was for the traffic study.
I think a lot of, those stop signs obviously have been there a lot longer than the code has been around. I think this would be a new stop sign, and PennDOT requires us to explain why we want to put it there.
Well,
since it's an existing road,
I just think that, in my own personal opinion, I think $2,400 to do a study on a stop sign is kind of stupid, let alone being ridiculous. How about the sidewalks on New Falls Road from Hood Boulevard all the way down to St. Joe's? I got to look at the drawings today, and the figures I come up with, it's broken down into four phases, and it comes out to being $2,229,500 for that project.
No, you added them together. They're not phases. They're options. They're 4 different options. They're not phases.
Phase 1 is 517.
They're not phases. They're options. You can do this one or this one or this one or this one. You don't do all of them.
Well, the drawing says phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and phase 4, not options. There's a difference between the word phase and option.
I agree.
So, in other words, what you're saying, it could be anywhere of the 4.
Right,
so
correct.
It's either 512, 272,000, 953,000, or 481,000.
Yes.
Okay. Plus, there's 6 items on each page, on each phase, that is no cost is included. So whatever the option is or phase that you're going to get to, you got 6 options or 6 other things that are going to come out. It's going to raise the cost.
Right.
That's number 1. Number 2, they did a unit price calculation. The unit price calculation was from February 16th, 2009. This is 2010. The project's not scheduled to go until 2012. That price is going to change between 2009, 2010, and 2012. It's not going to be any one of those 4 different prices. So I think I don't know what you decided to do.
We haven't decided to do anything.
Okay, I think
And I'm not familiar with what, I'll have to look at it again. I'm not sure what unit cost you're referring to, but I'll have to look at it again.
You know, that road's been there for 60 years, okay? Did they do a traffic study to find out how many accidents we had of people that are walking on the road? I don't know if they did that or not. I would think that would be a prime requisite. Do we have a lot of accidents, a lot of people walking on the road? If you don't have that, why spend, so I'll say the max of $953,000 for an 8-foot wide blacktop sidewalk that's only 5 foot away from the road?
Right.
5 foot road away from the road at 40 miles an hour, boy, you're not going to be pretty safe anyway,
right,
whether you're walking in the road or alongside the road. Okay. I understand we're also checking with, I forget who it is now, one of the state departments, Environmental Protection, about putting a boat ramp in the community park lake. Do I remember that correctly, Mr. Gray?
There's already a boat ramp in the community park.
I saw that somewhere and I thought, this is still water. This is not tide water. This is a lake that you're only going to put rowboat, kayaks, and canoes in. Why are we spending money to put a boat ramp in there?
I'm not sure what I don't know what you're talking about.
I'll find that one.
Okay.
And we can talk about that.
Because there's already a boat ramp in the lake.
Pardon?
There's already a boat ramp on that lake.
A boat ramp in the lake, not the one in the river.
Correct.
Not,
There's
not
already
the one
a
in
boat ramp
Delaware.
there.
There's a boat ramp in.
Yeah, there's a ramp already there.
Yeah. I just can't see putting a boat ramp in the Stillwater Lake when the only thing you're dragging in there is a rowboat, a kayak, and a canoe. If you can't walk with your sneakers into the water, you're in trouble. That's for darn sure. I also took a look at the drawings on Biles Island. And first of all, the island now has 5 lakes in it. So we've lost a lot of the surface in there. And the drawing I saw was, I think I counted 11 soccer fields in there. And at one time I thought we talked about having a boat ramp down there also. Is that still part of the program?
There hasn't been any discussion on that yet.
No motion? Yeah, we're going to slip that one in. That's going to be a silent, what do you call that, launching? That's for darn sure. Well, you guys always present interesting problems for the public, okay? And but again, I'd like to ask the people of Falls Township to start coming to school board meetings. That's where your money goes. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Okay, any more? Those are all the names I have. Any other public comment? No? Okay. All right, we'll leave that out. Okay, next item on our agenda is the minutes. Is there any for a break? Take a break?
Yeah, I'm going to ask.
All right, well, actually, we'll take a break first. We'll call our meeting back to order at, looks like 10:07. Mr. Zipka was not feeling well, so he went home for the evening. I hope he feels better. Minutes from July 20, 2010. I'm assuming these will pass relatively easily. There's no comments or questions. Mr.
No,
Snipes,
no
make
comments.
your, no comment from you, Mr. Snipes? Not your normal comment?
No, except excellent minutes, Mrs. Pullen.
That's what I was waiting for. There we go. Okay. All right. Is there a motion to accept the minutes as presented?
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Engineers report. Mr. Sullivan, any highlights here?
2 highlights this evening, Mr. Chairman. The Challenger field is almost complete. The safety surface is in. It will be completed. I think the safety surface is due to be completed by the end of day Thursday, and then the general contractor, Land Tech, has another couple days of cleanup and things like that, and then the field will actually be ready for use. So certainly by sometime in September, the league could use the field if they'd like to.
Okay.
And tomorrow morning, we're having a pre-construction meeting for the boat ramp. the actual boat ramp at the Quaker Penn Park. That'll be with the contractor and the Conservation District, and then we'll have another pre-construction meeting with the Army Corps of Engineers. But we'll turn the contractor loose to do the work on land, and then once we meet with the Army Corps, he'll be able to work in the water.
Great. That's good news. All right. Yeah, waited a long time. I think when I made the motion to start looking at the boat ramp about 4 years ago, it was I mentioned that whenever you get near the river, everything has to slow down because everybody gets involved. Everybody wants to hear what you're doing, and every state and federal agency involved wants to take their time. And we've seen that happen, but we're coming to the end of it, and that's great news. And the Challenger Field, I've been going down about once a week just to see the progress, and I was down there today. And they're putting on the green surface, sort of a rubbery surface. There's a black sort of sub base they put down. And then tomorrow, I think if the weather held out, they're going to be putting a sort of a red infield surface in. And so it's going to look like a real baseball diamond, but it'll be an all-weather sort of rubber surface. And it looks very, 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 very good. It really does. It's going to be tremendous. And so glad to see it coming to a conclusion, and thank all those who were involved in getting it done. So, comments or questions from board members to Mr. Sullivan? No?
No,
Mr. Dents, no? Is there a motion to accept the July 2010 engineering report?
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, bill list for August 17, 2010. The bill list is in the amount of $1,884,460.33. Of that, almost 1.9 million. 1 million is salary and benefits and insurance, basically. The road program is also in here, as our street lights, almost $28,000 in street lights. So it's about $300,000 in for the mill and overlay project that was in Birch Valley and Fairless Hills. So. Any comments or questions regarding the bill list? Mr. Snipes?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Dents?
No, none.
Okay, is there a motion to pay the bills in the amount of $1,884,460.33?
So moved.
Seconded.
Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Okay, we don't have a need for an executive session. Manager comment, Mr. Gray?
Yes, just a few items tonight. First item is a proposal from Keystone Aerial Surveys Incorporated for a community park aerial photograph in the amount of $3,685. This will provide the township and the engineer's office with a topography image for future projects that will be done at the park, photographs for various meetings in the township, and as a resource for the Park and Rec Department. At this time, the board is asked to consider this aerial survey from Keystone Aerial Surveys for $3,685.
Okay. And I think you had said, Mr. Gray, that Mr. Reese, Park and Rec Director, was going to take some of these maps and put various places around the township park so that people could see sort of where they are and the various distances. That's always a question I get, is how far is it around the lake? How far is this? Because people want to know. You don't always, there are markings there in terms of how many miles, quarter mile, whatever, half mile you've gone, but if you start at a certain place, you may not know how far you've gone. So these have various maps around that people can see where they are, and it'll be a good resource. Any other questions for Mr. Gray?
Had we budgeted for this?
This was an unbudgeted item, but we do have money in miscellaneous expense that'll cover this cost.
Okay.
The 44 by 60 image we're going to display?
Yes. It will probably be displayed,
In
as long as
here?
the board's okay with it, in this room here. Yes.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay. All right. Is there a motion then to authorize the payment for, where is it?
Keystone Aerial.
Keystone Aerial Surveys Incorporated in the amount of $3,685?
So moved.
Second.
All right. Mrs. Pullen, pull the board, please.
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
My next item is escrow release number 2 for Nova Tube and Steel. T&M has inspected the site and recommends this release in the amount of $20,991.98. At this time, the board is asked to approve this escrow release number 2.
Okay. Comments or questions from board members? No?
No.
All right, is there a motion then to authorize the payment of the escrow to Nova Tube and Steel, $20,991.98?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Seconded?
Okay, Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dent?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
My next item, in a letter from Carolyn Edwards dated August 6th, representing CVA Incorporated, they have a preliminary final land development plan currently going on. They are requesting an extension of time until November 17th, 2010. At this time, the board is asked to consider this extension.
Okay, letter of extension to November 17, 2010. All right, is there a motion to grant the letter of extension?
Yes, so moved.
Seconded?
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
The police department is requesting the purchase of a copier. The police department did secure 3 quotes. The one that they are interested in, this particular model, is a reconditioned model from Saab Office Equipment for $4,875. This price includes the installation and setup of this particular model. At this time, the board is asked to consider the purchase of this Ricoh copier for $4,875 from Saab Office Equipment for the police department.
Okay, and this would be the main copier for their offices, correct?
It'll be in the records department, yes. Yeah, it'll be their main one, yes.
All right. Okay. And I know the police department looked into leasing a copier too. Sometimes that's cheaper. I know a lot of schools, for example, lease copiers, and that way they get parts for free and maintenance for free. But this, they actually, this price includes a lot of that, and this actually was cheaper.
Yes, it was slightly cheaper, yes.
Okay. All right. Any questions regarding the copier? Mr. Snipes?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Gray, it seems like not only do we need a new copier, but one of the reasons is that because of new requirements from the county for emailing.
Yes.
All court cases have to be emailed to their department for screening. And our present equipment doesn't allow us to do that, is that correct?
Yes, the technology they have in the police department will not have that capability.
So this new machine obviously has that?
Yes.
Okay, that's all.
Mr. Dents?
No.
All right, is there a motion then to authorize the payment of $4,875 to Saab Office Equipment for the reconditioned printer, or copier?
Yes, so moved.
Seconded?
All right. Mr. or Mrs. Pullen?
Mr. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Dents?
Yes.
Mr. Snipes?
Yes.
Okay.
My next item are announcements from the Park and Rec Department. The final family movie night at the Pinewood Pool will be held on Saturday, August 21st, starting at 8:30 p.m. The movie being shown is Alvin and the Chipmunks, The Squeakquel. This is a free event for all residents. The final teen dance at the Pinewood Pool will be held on Thursday, August 26th, from 7:45 to 10:30 p.m. The cost for teens ages 12 to 16 is $3 per teen. The annual Falls Township Family Festival event will be held on Saturday, September 11th at the Falls Township Community Park from 3 p.m. to approximately 9 p.m. There will be live music, magicians, puppet shows, children's games, carnival rides, information booth, and food vendors. There will also be a fireworks display at the end of the evening. The rain date for this event will be Saturday, September 18th. If you have any additional questions or you require more information, please call the Park and Rec Department 215-949-9000, extension 220, 221, or 222. And finally, I just want to announce that they are Samex and Sims Metal Management Mylars ready for signature. And that's all I have.
Okay, thank you. All right, move on to board comment. Mr. Dents, why don't you start us off?
I just want to add to Mr. Gray, all I have tonight, he mentioned the Falls Family Festival. This year, Falls Township is hosting the Backyard Barbecue, sponsored by the Courier Times and Smokin' Dudes Barbecue. They always have done it at Shady Brook Farms in the past, where they're not doing it any longer, but we are going to do it at the Township Park this year. So anybody that's a backyard barbecuer can come and enter, and there's some good prize money, a couple $1,000 in prize money, thanks to the Courier Times. That's all I have.
Okay. All right. Mr. Snipes?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a couple of things. I received an email from Mr. Mike Johnson, who is an employee of Pennsbury Manor here in Falls Township, which we know is a state institution, and all state institutions have been under some financial stress. He contacted me because of the large event they do in December, Holly Night, which if you've been to is a wonderful event where you can stroll the grounds and see some of the colonial crafts, and there's music and different things to do. And he is wondering if Falls Township might be willing to make a contribution to support the evening. Even though Pennsbury Manor is not obviously a township facility, there are many township people who attend the event. Pennsbury High School choir will be singing there, and another choir, which I've forgotten, also from Falls Township. So I'm not asking for us to make a decision tonight, but I'd kind of like to put the information out there that it's, excuse me, a very heavily attended event.
Yeah.
A lot of people. It's a great place to showcase things that we have in Falls Township, and we might want to make some kind of contribution, even to support some part of the evening.
Sure.
So I'll bring that up again. I also wanted to comment on what Mr. Mariani had to say about geothermal energy for this building. I think it's intriguing, and I'd like to see us do some research and maybe gather some information and see if someone could do a proposal for us. I believe there is a geothermal company located in Morrisville. I don't know if there's one maybe right here in Falls Township, I'm not sure, but there certainly would be others in the Philadelphia area that might be interested in talking to us. So I don't know if we can direct Mr. Gray to, if the others agree with me, to do some research and see if there's someone who could at least give us some preliminary information, and then we can decide if we want to schedule some kind of presentation.
Yeah, and I had written it down too. Something I was curious about. I didn't know whether to go through a private company or through, I don't know if T&M does that kind of work or not, or I just wasn't
I have no
sure.
idea.
So we'll explore it, and then we'll come back and take a look at it. But yeah, I think it's a good idea too. I know he's brought it up a couple times.
Right.
I know the geothermal is a great energy source if you live in an area where there's sort of a hot spot. I'm not really sure that we're in that kind of zone geographically. I think there's certain geological factors. I don't think geothermal is equally as efficient all over the place. So I'd be interested to see if we're in an area where it does make sense to do it.
Yeah, there's a difference between thinking of like a place like Iceland where they have hot,
Yeah,
geothermal all the time. That's one thing for hot water and everything else. But I know institutions here in the Philadelphia area, seeing as the Earth is, at a certain depth, it's a constant 55 or so. If you can draw that warm air up, then all you have to do is heat from 55 to 65 or 75 or whatever you
Right,
want,
okay.
or to cool in the same way. So I think it's worth exploring.
Okay.
The last thing I wanted to say was in remembrance of Trish Reynolds. I also had the same experience of having a really friendly person in the township building who always responded to requests, and also had been here so long she was also full of some pretty good stories about what she'd seen come and go in the township. And the two I remember was one, a fellow that came in with a giant black snake in a bucket to show what he'd found on his property and could the township do something, and he said, look, and so he wanted her to look down in this bucket, and she almost jumped on her chair when she saw this very large snake in the bottom of the bucket. And the other story was a person who came in and told her, another animal story, who told her that there was an albatross stuck behind a stove in her house. And that was sort of dumbfounding, because I don't know that you normally come across an albatross in Falls Township, which is a very large bird, and how it could have gotten stuck behind a stove. So it must have been something else, but Trish kept asking the person, are you sure this is an albatross behind your stove? And the person was sure. I don't know how the story finally ended up, but I think there was not an albatross behind the stove.
Something else.
But I was smiling tonight as we were thinking about Trish and remembering her graciousness and her hard work and her good stories about life in Falls Township.
Yeah, thank you. I thank board members for a productive meeting tonight. Certainly, it's we can disagree on certain issues, and I think we all have our reasons for disagreeing on certain issues and voting the way we do. But interested to see, I think the learning experience project, I think, is an interesting one. I'd like to see what exactly the traffic study says. I think Mrs. Lindblom brought up a very, very good point that there already has been a charter school just a couple hundred yards away from that building, and did pull in buses from all over Lower Bucks County. And we're seeing the Chamonix buses and Bristol Township buses and Ben-Salem buses bringing kids to that Montessori school when it was in there, as well as normal people dropping their kids off and picking them up, etc. So how much extra traffic there will be, I'm really not sure of. But I do think it's something interesting to take a look at, just to see what kind of traffic information we get back. I want to remind, I guess, board members too, and also members of the public, that we will be going back to 2 meetings a month in September. We've been doing 1 meeting a month in July and August, but the summer coming to a close, the standard procedure here is to start back with 2 meetings a month in September. So September 7th and 21st will be board meetings. And so we'll look forward to getting back into that routine. And I think that's it. We'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Sullivan wins.